Amigo Fraga, and I'm representing Team Toyota. My teammates are Koke Lopez and Tomoaki Yamanaka.
チームマツダ代表の福分亮太です。チームメイトはガラン選手、クラブチェンコ選手です。
マニアクチャラーシリーズ現チャンピオンの宮園拓馬です。ワールドファイナルマニアクチャラーシリーズでは、僕たちチームスバルの団結力に注目してください。
En la World Final yo espero ser campeón del mundo con Porsche con mis compañeros de equipo.
ワールドファイナルマニファクチャラーシリーズでは、私たちチームマツダは全力を尽くして頑張りたいと思います。
Today we'll go for the win. We have very good chances. We're in a good position and we'll just go for it.
Hello and welcome to the World Finals of the 2021 FIA certified Gran Turismo Championships. The World Finals are where champions are crowned, and today we'll find out which team will join our previous winners of the Manufacturers Series. Who will get their hands on this prestigious trophy and all the glory that comes with it? Every team is made up of 3 drivers who will take part in 1 race each. Heading into today's monumental clash, the Manufacturers Series standings couldn't be closer, with Team Toyota and Team Mazda tied on points at the top. Peugeot were third, but they didn't do well enough in the online series to qualify for today's finals. So the biggest threat to Toyota and Mazda are the reigning champions, Team Subaru and Team Porsche, who have hit top form recently. Talking of Porsche, if you're wondering what's hidden under our magic blanket, well, Porsche is a huge clue, but a little bit more of that later. However, with so many points on offer, any of our 12 manufacturers in the World Finals could end up as our 2021 champions.
So it's Angel Enestrosa who wins round 1 of the 2021 Manufacturers World Series as Takuma Miyazono comes across the line to win World Series 2 in the Manufacturers Series. Eagle Fraga and Toyota win the Manufacturers Series in the World Series 2021 showdown. Round 3 of the Manufacturers Series, Team Porsche and Jose Serrano are on top here in the Red Bull Ring. Pole position, fastest lap, and the win in World Series 4 in the Manufacturers Series. Relief for Igor Fraga.
I think we're leading the pack, but the difference to Mazda and Porsche is also very, very little. So we have to keep securing good amount of points, and especially want to have a little bit of advantage to the final race because there will be double points.
Representar en la final mundial a Porsche para mí también es un orgullo porque es una marca de coches que me encanta, es la favorita mía. Y nada, espero hacerlo muy bien con mis compañeros.
マニュファクチャラーシリーズでのライバルですが、全員がライバルだと思っています。その時のレースの展開により、どの選手が速いというのはすごく変わってくるので、そんな選手にも負けないように頑張りたいと思います。
ワールドファイナル、マニュファクチャラーシリーズでは、僕たちチームスバルの、団結力に注目してください。
So for the World Final, we will work closely to make sure that everyone in this team is on the best level as possible, and of course help each other during each other's race. Strategy will also play a big part of it.
Para las finales mundiales, las sedes fabricantes, nosotros como equipo queremos ganar y para eso debemos de aprovecharnos del punto fuerte del Porsche.
見てもらっている人たちが熱くなれるようなレースをしたいと思います。
Waiting to share their opinions with you are my partners in crime, Tom Brooks and Jimmy Broadbent. But first, I'll explain how the title will be decided. Our 12 brilliant manufacturers include BMW and Hyundai, who qualified due to their recent performances in the online series. Each team has 3 drivers, so that's 36 drivers spread across the globe competing. There's 12 points for each win in the first 2 races. And our last race, the Grand Final, offers double points, which means there's going to be a chance of a turnaround right up until the last lap of the last race. I should mention, obviously, that the grid positions for race 2 and the Grand Final are determined by finishing positions on the race before. So, Tom and Jimmy, let's start with a very simple, straightforward question, which hopefully you can answer, which is, well, who's going to win then?
Right, OK, yeah, that's on me then, isn't it? I guess it's going to be... I think we should start with Team Toyota, really. Really strong driver line up there. I mean, you've got Yamanaka, you've got Igor Fraga, but have you got a weak link in Coque Lopez, just given his form this year?
I don't know. I mean, I think if you're saying that Coque Lopez is a weak link, then you've got a fairly decent team. And also yesterday,
he's got weird strategies that somehow just work out.
He's not afraid to try something different, and sometimes that really pays off. So it's always good to have someone sort of thinking out of the box in the team. So I don't think he's a weak link at all, actually. So that's really mean. Why have you said that?
Sorry, yeah, OK. Well, I'm not going to be on his Christmas card list then, am I? What about Team Mazda then this year? Again, joint, leaders with Team Toyota, really strong driver lineup. They've really come on song in 2021.
They have, but I sort of think that Coque
You're being deliberately devil's advocate all the way through this. I love it.
My job's devil's advocate, that's what I do. But I think Coque has just been I don't know, he's been up and down. Some races he's been absolutely amazing. Others, he's literally just been vibing in the gravel. So I'm not quite sure. He needs to be on form here for them to do well.
Who's being mean now?
I'm being honest.
I kind of want vibing in the gravel on a T-shirt. It sort of has effect.
There's a merchandise opportunity there. You can't discount last year's champions, though, Subaru, though, obviously. You know, a really strong lineup last year. This year, can they bring it to the front?
I think they have two of the same drivers as last year, of course, in Daniel Solis and Miyazono as well, who's always fast, always one to watch, but is as of now, no longer a triple champion, only a double for now. So. And
it was so close yesterday as well. Honestly, in that final lap, I really felt for him because it could have gone either way. It was just so close.
Definitely.
I mean, we have to look at Porsche also, just lastly as well. Jose Serrano is the driver who's in the first race. And, of course, this is the only opportunity they've actually got to do a qualifying session. Serrano, we know, is really quick over one lap. If he can qualify on pole, get a good result in race 1, that sets them really nicely up for race 2 and 3. Yeah,
it's worth saying that Porsche do have a strong team, but also having Serrano there, I think he's in form recently. He's been really quick, seconds first all the time, always on the podium. So, yeah, he's our starting driver, which I think is interesting because, you know, as you said before, get that qualifying done early, get him up the grid and get him in a good position at the start of the races. And speaking of starting drivers, we have the full list right here. Interestingly, Toyota leading with Coque Lopez. What do you think of that?
Well, I think that's a strong start.
Yeah,
well, maybe.
Well, I don't know, after what you said.
Well,
get the weakling out the way. Go on, right, Tom.
When have I ever known what I'm talking about, Julia?
It's the end of the year, like the gloves are off. I'll say what I think. Well, look, we're going to continue arguing about this, but the tension is obviously going to build as the day goes on. So why don't we kick off with qualifying for race 1?
So let's have a look then at the Lago Maggiore circuit, where we're going to be competing in race 1 for the Manufacturer Series World Finals then. This is a fictional circuit within GT Sport, 5.8 kilometres long, lots of elevation, lots of fast corners. Brilliant circuit, in my opinion.
Yes, Lago Maggiore GP2 electric boogaloo. Awesome section from T8 down to T13, very fast and flat out if you've got the right line through there as well. Bit of elevation to talk about here, mainly down to that awesome roller coaster corner, we call it, right in the top right of the circuit there. Downhill, 74 metres between the highest and lowest points. We're in Group 3 cars today on the racing medium compound of tyre. One pit stop is required, but the tyre change isn't. So that's up to our drivers.
Yeah, absolutely. They're going to have to figure out that. Rolling stars for them as well, so not bunched together on the grid. And you can see that the penalty line there is coming out of turn 7 on the long run down towards T8. One-shot qualifying for race 1 of the Manufacturer Series ahead of the World Final. Rio Kamata would be the first driver to set a representative lap time for Team BMW. This will be the benchmark for everybody else to beat, and it was a low 1 minute 54. 1:54.3 was the time that everybody else was aiming for.
Yeah, really nice time there for Kamata, and Kravchenko, by comparison, could get nowhere near for Team Mazda, a 54.9, putting him nowhere near that pole challenge, and just as well with Team Subaru, the reigning champions, also not on the pace as well. So a bit tricky for the two teams.
Yeah, absolutely. Here is Jose Serrano then, the Spaniard who's been on great form in the Nations Cup this year, but could he do anything behind the wheel of the Porsche? Well, he certainly could. A low 1:54, the quickest time right at the very end of that session. Hiroshi Okamoto, though, for Volkswagen, was in brilliant form. He looked like he could trounce them all, but just lost out by 0.2 of a second right at the very end of the session.
Joao Pessoa for Team Honda also looking very strong out there. That has been quick all season, and yet again in this qualifying session, a 54.1, oh so nearly toppling Jose Serrano. But it was this man, Coque Lopez for Toyota, which made the rest of them look slow in comparison. Came across the start-finish line and absolutely blew away their time by Serrano, the only man in the 53s, only just so 1:53.9, pole position for Team Toyota.
Well, a phenomenal lap from Coque Lopez. Toyota, the joint leaders of the Manufacturer Series, coming into this World Final. Then they start on pole position with Porsche and Jose Serrano for company alongside.
Congratulations to Team Toyota and their driver Coque Lopez for securing pole position for race 1. Remember, that was a vital qualifying session, as the results of the coming race will determine the grid lineup for race 2. We're all set for some brilliant racing, and it's great to see that we're having a lively gathering of fans watching. So hello to you there in Tokyo, and hello to all of the staff and guests of Polyphony Digital, the makers of Gran Turismo. Thanks for watching, you guys, and we really hope you enjoyed today's racing. Wherever you're watching, you've got English and 6 other languages to choose from. So once you've made your choice, let's compose ourselves and dive straight into race 1.
The drivers are lined up on the grid, ready for race 1 of the Manufacturers Series for the 2021 FIA Certified Gran Turismo Championships World Finals.
Coque Lopez, an amazing lap from the Toyota driver, sees him lining up on pole position with Jose Serrano, his fellow Spaniard for Porsche, alongside him. Second row of the grid is headed by João Pessoa in the Honda NSX. Great to see the Brazilian driver doing so well on the international stage with Hiroshi Okamoto, who also performed well here earlier on this year. He lines up P4 with Ryu Kamata for BMW in P5 and Sato for Nissan lining up P6. Next up on the grid, we have last year's champion Subaru, Thomas Scabilia behind the wheel. The Frenchman lines up P7 with the WRX. He's got Adam Wilk for company on that row of the grid in the Aston Martin B12 Vantage. Next up, Soma Iseri, the Japanese driver in the Jag F-Type. And completing the top 10 is Miroslav Kravchenko. Joint leaders Mazda quite far down the order on the grid. Cho for Mercedes-Benz, the Japanese driver lines up P11. And 12th and bookending the grid is Merenda, the Frenchman, in the Hyundai Genesis. One pit stop is mandatory during this race. They've only got racing medium tyres available for them. Well, Jimmy, what do you think the strategy is going to be then going into this race?
50-50, I think it's going to be. Split the tyre stop down the middle and just have fresh tyres towards the start. And then you can undercut, of course, around here as well. That sometimes works, but in a field this competitive, you really have to make that count when you're in lap and out lap to actually get anything out of it.
So coming through into the final series of corners then for Coque Lopez. He's going to lead the field round as we get ready to get the Manufacturer Series race underway. Jose Serrano in second, João Pessoa in third with Okamoto in fourth position. We're ready to go then for the World Finals in 2021. The Manufacturer Series about to get underway then here at the Autodrome Lago Maggiore. Lopez leads the field over the line as the World Finals is go for the FIA certified Gran Turismo Championships. Down towards the first corner, drivers weaving to get heat into the tyres, but it's Lopez that leads the way through. Looks like Kravchenko is trying to make some moves from 10th place on the grid. Let's see whether he can try and do that in the Mazda. A poor qualifying for them, as we mentioned earlier on. Riding on board here then with Coque Lopez through into the infield section of the lap. Lopez retains the lead from Serrano, from Pessoa and Okamoto as they come through in towards the right-hander.
Yeah, very much one at a time at the moment. The only person to make a place is Scabilia, making a place for Subaru over Nissan, 6th and 7th back there. Meanwhile, Coque Lopez leads the charge down the hill for the first time. This awesome camber corner, kicking up the dust there on exits, using all the circuit a little bit more as we go through the left-hander for the first time. Good overtaking spot there if you're close enough. No one seems to be at the moment as we go back uphill now. This is where horsepower is everything into this awesome S section through here. All about commitment through this part of the course. And if you're Okamoto right on the back of Pessoa there in the NSX, you can barely see where you're going, so it's a little bit of blind commitment too. Here is on board with the Porsche and Jose Serrano. Pressure's on him in this race. He is, I think, undoubtedly probably one of the quicker drivers in that Porsche lineup, so he needs to make the best of that here in race one.
So coming down in towards this hairpin then, it's sort of a double apex corner. You go over to the left, then into the next corner, and then run it out to the outside of the circuit before you climb over the crest of the hill. Now we're expecting drivers to make their pit stops at around the halfway stage in this race, about lap 5 or so, but let's see whether that proves to be the case, because we've seen a few different strategies from these drivers. Through into the left-hander there, slightly wide on the entry to the corner for Coque Lopez. Jose Serrano just sitting there, keeping him honest as it stands as they come through into the final series of corners. And be interested to see what the tactics are then here for Jose Serrano, if he's going to try and pounce on Lopez and try and break away, or if he's just going to sit behind him for a little while.
He does look quicker at the moment, the Serrano. I mean, he's really on the back of that Toyota, but we know that Toyota's pretty fast in a straight line, so it's very difficult to get close. He's just gaining a little bit on the straight. Meanwhile, back to Pessoa in the NSX. He's sort of leading the second group, so to speak. Third place with Okamoto behind him, and Kamata, the BMW driver, qualified really well, actually, but not able to progress so far up the grid. Pessoa doing a great job for the NSX. I've not seen Pessoa in one of our events before, and it's always very refreshing to see a new name come in and perform well, especially under this sort of pressure.
Yeah, he's done very well as Pessoa, as you said, and Honda actually sitting down in joint 10th place in the standings coming into this World Final. So this is one of the best performances that we've seen from Honda, especially without Valerio Gallo behind the wheel at this stage. Gallo's kind of been the superstar of that manufacturer, and it's good to see the other talent performing well also.
We have seen that Honda, though, struggle with tyre wear as it gets to the end of the race. Mid-engine layout, it tends to slide around to try and rotate into the corner to try and get that apex speed, and if you do that too much, the rear tyres eventually just sort of give up and leave. So you've got to be very careful with that. Wilk there going for a move on Scabilia. Worth knowing as well that Sato has taken the place back from Scabilia, back up to 6th place where they started. So currently everyone's where they started on group, which makes the job very easy for us here in the commentary booth. But Sato there, obviously
I have a bit of a like for Nissan. I have several thousands at home, so yeah, just always rooting for Team Nissan in my way. But 6th place is the best we've seen from this season, so hopefully we'll see a bit more as the race goes on.
Yeah, Nissan have not had a good 2021. So for anybody who watched the World Finals last year and is perhaps tuning in for the first time, we've got Subaru down in 7th place. Last year they were cleaning up really with their driver lineup. Why is that not the case this year?
It's hard to say. I mean, of course, in the Gran Turismo sport, the BOP is changing constantly, which is the balance of power, balance of performance, however you want to say it, which basically means how these cars race on the circuit, because we have inherently 12 very different cars on circuit right now that all have to be balanced so they can race against each other, which means adding weight, taking away weight, adding power, taking away power, and it's basically a very, very fine maths equation that the guys over at Polyphony spend probably most of their time doing, and I don't envy them. But to be honest, they've done a fairly decent job seeing how close they all are right now. But if you are the winning car, it's great for a season until they go, well, you're winning, so you must be a bit too quick, so we're going to turn you down a bit. And I reckon that's what's happened to Subaru. Maybe a little bit, and also bear in mind they are missing Mick Hazal from last season. And Mick Hazal, I think, arguably one of the greatest GT Sport drivers of all time. And missing him from a lineup, any team's going to miss that.
Yeah, absolutely. Michael Hazal deciding to focus a bit more on his studies in 2021. And you can see the live point standings on your screen there. So if the race fell now, the checkered flag fell at the moment, it would be Toyota that would lead with 25 points to Porsche's 17. Mazda up into 3rd place with Volkswagen and Subaru trailing in 4th and 5th place then respectively. But of course, we've got strategy and we've got pit stops to play out. Looks like Ryo Kamata there. It's getting pretty close onto the back of Hiroshi Okamoto. I mentioned Okamoto earlier on this year when we were in Group 4 cars at this Lago Maggiore circuit. He was really, really quick behind the wheel of that Volkswagen Scirocco. I think he stuck it on pole, if memory serves me correctly. But this Group 3 Beetle, it's not the quickest in the Group 3 category, is it? Yeah,
he was pole fastest lap and the race wins, so clean sweep for Okamoto in that race there. But it has to be said that that Scirocco was a little bit quick, I think. And Kamata there going, having to, I think, go for him, but I think he actually had to defend from Sato. Just caught the end of that there as Kamata took the inside line. That Nissan in a straight line seems to have picked up quite a bit of speed. In fact, if we look at the top speed right now, it's actually Cho holds the fastest top speed down in the Mercedes back there. But Sato not too far off, 256 k's compared to 255 k's for Okamoto. That's not a big difference, but it's enough to make the difference. Now, interestingly, we're having the first of our pit stoppers. A lot of the guys from the further down the order opting to try and pit early and give that undercut, and Sato is one of them.
So what's the main advantage then of this undercut? What are we expecting them to be? Do they need to be out in clean air, or what's the strategy going to be?
It's basically you have a fresher tyre for about a lap compared to the guys around you. So we do run a tyre multiplier in this series, which means that the tyre wear is a lot quicker than it would be in sort of a normal racing situation. So if you think about it, these guys have about 8 or 9 laps worth of tyre wear less, if that makes sense, than the guys who have just come out into the pits now and who are doing their laps. So it's definitely worth going out and doing that. And if you do get that right, it means you sort of jump up the train when everyone else comes to pit. But of course, conversely, when you get to the end of the race, your tyres are older, so you're more vulnerable to attack.
2.1 seconds the gap now between Coque Lopez and Jose Serrano as they come through this S-bend. If you're very committed through there, you can go almost full throttle, and you can see Lopez and Serrano trying to do that, but of course I imagine trying to keep something in their back pocket to try and preserve those tyres for as long as they can. Now, are they going to come in at the end of lap 4 here, or are they going to continue on with their pace? Just looking at their lap times, it seems to be relatively okay. Jose Serrano last time round set a personal best lap time of 1:55, so he seems to be doing all right as it stands.
I'm sure we're going to see one of the guys who have pitted set a faster lap very soon. They'll have less fuel in the tank as well. Track will be a bit more rubbered in, so the car will be a bit quicker. I just noticed here's Kamata and Okamoto again, and Kamata there just not able to get by Okamoto. It just seems that Okamoto is now falling off the back of the guys in front and just struggling a little bit to keep the BMW driver behind. But of course, as the late great Mario Walker once said, catching someone is one thing, getting past is quite another. And at this point, it seems that they're struggling with that. I will think we're going to see some pit stops. So, yep, in comes Kamata and Okamoto, so they're going to take the same stop. Lopez in as well as Scabilia, but interestingly, Serrano not in.
No, Pessoa also continuing on as well, so they decide to go a lap longer, and let's see whether that is going to be a strategy that pays dividends. Last time around, the lap time was a bit slower there for Jose Serrano, into the 1 minute 56. Here comes Okamoto. Where is he going to emerge out of the pit lane then? Here is Sato, not too far away from Okamoto. Sato actually getting the jump on Okamoto then, so that is a gap of over a second now between them, and of course Sato has already made their pit stop, so it's working out quite nicely then here at this stage for Nissan.
Oh, one happy Jimmy Broadbent. This is the highest we've seen Nissan all this season, and that's sort of like, for me, they're the underdogs, of course. I mean, this GTR, to say it's long in the tooth would be a little bit unkind to long teeth. I don't know what I'm saying there, but it's a blooming old car to go racing in Group 3, and it's great to see it's still doing well even to this day. So Sato currently in 4th place after the undercut, and that's there. It's working in action there. You've just seen what happened there. He came in a bit earlier, had a quicker outlap, and you can see the gap now where he was behind Kamata. He's now able to jump that little bit of, it's only about a second or so, but that's what a second looks like on circuit. It's enough to get by someone. So here's Coque Lopez. He is the leader of those who have pitted. He's about 10 seconds behind Pessoa and Serrano, and I just don't see how Serrano is going to make anything of this. This is going to be a Coque Lopez. He's going to extend his lead here, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the gap is about 13 seconds for the pit stop, and the gap between the two, about 13 seconds as it stands now. So it's going to be pretty close between them. Let's see how it all plays out once Serrano comes into the pit lane. It surely will be at the end of this lap, because his sector times are beginning to drop off quite dramatically. Riding on board then here with Ryu Kamata, then the Japanese driver, trying to battle with his fellow compatriot Hiroshi Okamoto as they come down this back straight in towards the left-hander. Early lift there and coast for Kamata. So what's that all about?
I'm not really sure in this scenario, because fuel isn't going to be an issue here. So it might just be that he doesn't want to run into the back of him and just wants to get a better exit. So just noticing that Serrano and Pessoa have both come into the pit lane themselves. So let's see where Coque Lopez is. Let's see what the rest of the field is. I am going to predict, I think it's an easy prediction, that Serrano's going to have lost some time here to Lopez. Let's have a look. So here is Lopez, look to the left. There he goes through the right-hander, and that gap that was about 2 or 3 tenths of a second has now gone up to nearly 2 seconds. So I'm unsure why Serrano pitted so late, honestly.
Wonderful strategy then for Coque Lopez, works out very nicely, and sadly for Serrano, I wonder whether that's just a bit of an experience creeping in. Serrano's the younger of the two Spaniards, and Lopez has been around for as long as we've been doing this, pretty much, so I wonder whether that's just his experience coming into play and thinking that, oh, well, I'll try this strategy because I know that it works, after many times getting it wrong.
Yeah, I'm sure if we can consult one of these stat monkeys that is behind the stage somewhere, we could tell that Coque Lopez, I'm fairly sure, has been at every single big event that we've ever done, fairly much. So he's been around, as you say, for a very long time, very, very experienced. And when it comes to strategy as well, we've noticed, especially this season, his strategy has been on point in pretty much every race he's won. I'll go as far as say he's not the quickest driver out there, but he more than makes up for it in how he runs his race, which is worth a lot here. So in this case as well, 1.7 seconds ahead, that's a big deficit. So looking back now through the field, Kravchenko has made his way up a little bit from the poor qualifying, up to P7 now, so decent recovery. He's actually the biggest mover outside of Sato, who is now P3. Wait, when did that happen? Wait, Sato's P3!
Yeah, Sato managing to get himself up into P3. I mean, Jimmy Broadbent's going to explode if Nissan get any higher. Have you got a nosebleed that they're so far up?
I've got like a bucket of horribleness going on right now, but
wonderful.
This needs to happen for me. Come on, Sato, mate. You can do this. Anyway,
fastest lap last time around for Nissan as well.
Obvious biases aside, let's try and get back to the commentary.
Oh, dearie me. Riding on board then with Joel Pessoa then. So this has been a bit of a drop back through the field for Honda, sadly. A good qualifying then for Pessoa as he has a little sneaky look up the inside of Kamata. Kamata going a little bit wide, won't work through there because they flick it right into this 90-degree corner. Is Pessoa going to be able to challenge Kamata coming down this straight in towards T1? He's in the slipstream then. Does he pull to the inside? Yes, he certainly does. So Pessoa on Kamata. Honda versus BMW on the inside there for Pessoa. Great commitment. Racing room given by Kamata. And it's 5th place then for João Pessoa. Nice move there. Can Kamata retaliate coming in towards the next series of corners? He's certainly going to try to, but it's very much one at a time through this next series of bends. I don't think an opportunity is going to present itself for the BMW driver.
Yeah, it was odd to sort of try and make a comeback there. All it was going to do was slow him up, I think. But Pessoa obviously the quicker driver on circuit right now. Question is now, can he catch Okamoto in front? He's got a few laps to do it. With the pace he's got, I don't think it's going to be too long before he's on the back of that VW in front. But it is looking good pace-wise for Pessoa. But of course,
in terms of his actual race, he's down 2 places, so strategy's not quite come off him. Someone else who's struggled in this race is Scabilia here for Team Subaru. Again, what's happened to Subaru? I mean, we're used to seeing them fighting comfortably for the top 3, and now down in 9th behind Adam Wilk, who's not even mentioned at all this race, and Aston Martin. He's just sort of going round, isn't he? I mean, 8th place is never anything you want to sort of boast about, but it's points on the board, I suppose. But yes, also, I say we should make mention of Miranda as well, and Cho, who we've not really talked about either. They are currently 11th and 12th. Cho 2 seconds off Sari in front in the Jag, and Miranda at the back in the Hyundai.
Again, same story for Mercedes-Benz though, isn't it? They've just sort of not really had a top year. If we look at the standings, they're 8th coming into this race.
Well, arguably, they lost one of their best drivers in Lukovsky, who's not part of this event anymore for one reason or another. But yeah, they've lost someone very, very quickly and had to replace him with, and there's no disrespect to Joe at all, but maybe someone a little bit less experienced than Nikolai.
So here then is Thomas Scabilia. You can see him getting really late on the brakes as he closes up onto the back of Adam Wilk. Just looking at the lap times between the 2 drivers, Scabilia, personal best lap time last time around. It was actually 0.8 of a second quicker than Adam Wilk, so I wonder whether the Aston Martin has chewed up its tyres a little bit more. And now as we come in towards the business end of the race, whether Scabilia is going to be able to mount a challenge. I don't think he's going to be able to do anything on the straight, because we know that V12 power plant behind the front headlights of the Aston Martin is significantly quicker in a straight line, but certainly looks like there's a bit more mechanical and aerodynamic grip in the corners for the Subaru, and as such he's closing up onto the back of him through these twisties.
Yeah, if you've got your bingo card out, you can tick off your Aston Martin V12 box, and here are the points as they would stand if the race ended right now. Toyota would of course be leading, from Porsche, from Mazda, who'd be tied on points, Volkswagen in 4th, with Subaru in 5th place. Again, Subaru I think 3rd place coming into this, so to go down to 5th after the first semi-final, or the first race, sorry, is not an ideal scenario.
No, not at all. Yeah, you're absolutely right. They were in 3rd place coming into the standings. So, yeah, Subaru going down the order, but trying to make their way up through on Adam Wilk there, who, again, just looks to be struggling through these twisty sections then. Let's see whether Scabilia is going to be able to mount a challenge as we ride on board then with the Frenchman. Great drive it's been from Adam Wilk then so far to sit in P8. We know that Aston Martin is not the quickest of the cars out there, and he's doing a good job to try and hang on to that position, but Scabilia is certainly looking the quicker of the 2. Is he going to send it up the inside here? Not quite at the moment. And again, down this straight, that's where we should see the Aston Martin beginning to stretch its legs. Looking a bit further up the order, 1 place in fact up the order, here is Miroslav Kravchenko, just on the back of Ryu Kamata then. So Kravchenko coming into a bit of traffic towards the end of this race, and this is good for Kravchenko. As you said earlier on, Jimmy, qualified particularly badly, but starting to make his way up towards the checkered flag.
Yeah, I mean, running out of time though, isn't he? He's not quite got enough time to score any, what I'd say, meaningful points. All points are points at the end of the day, but you obviously want a few more than that awarded for 7th. We've got to get onto the guys at Mazda and ask them to livery that car up, because, don't get me wrong, it's very pretty in its sort of stock Mazda red, but give it some stickers, give it something interesting to look at.
Are you going to suggest a mint green livery?
Yeah, a mint green. I'm not sure the guys at Mazda would take that, but call me if you're interested. I can hook you up.
Lap times between Coque Lopez and Jose Serrano, pretty even Stevens between the 2, about a 1/10 of a second or so separating them. The gap sitting at about a second as it stands right now. So let's see whether Serrano is going to close up onto the back of Lopez. It's been pretty much as you were throughout the entirety of this. And you can see back a bit further, this is João Pessoa right on the rear wing of Hiroshi Okamoto then. So Pessoa having a bit of a late race charge in this one, certainly closing up onto the back of him. Personal best lap time it was for Pessoa last time around. Not quite close enough to mount a challenge at the moment, but certainly encouraging after a difficult sort of start and middle stint of the race. After those pit stops, he dropped right back off of the podium, and now he's trying to make his way back up through.
Yeah, he's definitely doing a good job of clawing that time back, although it will still be a net loss if he gets past Okamoto. He needs to come third to sort of finish in his starting position, so to speak, but he is definitely quicker than the VW in front. So Honda versus VW, Beetle versus NSX. These are things that you wouldn't hit outside of Gran Turismo, which is why it's so entertaining commentating on these series. Up towards the straight now, great overtaking spot up here. Will Pessoa dart to the left and try and get a move here using the toe? No, he doesn't, not for now. I think maybe saving that move for maybe the last lap where there's not a time to reply.
So they're just going to be sitting here doing the sort of dress rehearsal at this point, aren't they, really?
Kind of. I mean, we're getting to the point now where it is time to send it. Send it hours, we are in them. And there's one of them at the inside of Okamoto. Opened the door for the briefest of time. And Pessoa didn't need asking twice. Straight through, up into fourth. Great move by the Honda driver.
Okamoto there just defending fresh air on the entry to the corner. Sent him a bit late on the brakes. Into the corner he went, off the apex. A bit of room there for Pessoa. And he's up through into fourth place. As you said, fantastic move. We're on the final lap then here with Coque Lopez. The gap is coming down between himself and Jose Serrano, now sitting at 0.6 of a second. I wonder if it's just going to be a bit too little too late there here for Jose Serrano to mount a meaningful challenge.
Yeah, I mean, this is the upside to Serrano pitting a little bit later, is his tyres still work. Coque Lopez, his tyres have just sort of, just left the chat. They're gone. They've retired. But he still has some grip under him in that Toyota, so he'll do his best. And we know Coque Lopez has excellent racecraft, so I don't see him making it easy for the fellow Spaniard behind him of the team Porsche. You see, pulling to the left-hand side, trying to break the slipstream, break the toe, not give Serrano any other advantage, and we head into the S's for the last time.
So coming into those S-Bens then as we ride on board here with Jose Serrano, can he mount a challenge on Coque Lopez before the end of the race? Certainly looking like the quicker of the two drivers with those fresher Michelin tyres underneath him. Coming through those S-Bens, this is where he's going to have much more grip underneath him, and the gap is now down to 0.4 of a second. So in towards these hairpin bends we go, and on towards the back straight. He's going to have the advantage of the slipstream here is Jose Serrano, where of course Lopez is punching that hole in the air, so won't have the overspeed. Going defensive, and Lopez knows that. I don't think the straight is going to be long enough for Serrano to mount a challenge as we come in towards this final sector. Later on the brakes though, with more grip underneath him, allows him to just close up ever so slightly then here for Jose Serrano, flicking it right and then in towards the final series of corners. I think it is just going to be a case of too little too late. Lopez though goes a bit defensive, defending a bit of fresh air into that corner, allowing Serrano to close up. It's going to be a run to the line here, but surely Lopez is going to hold on to it unless Serrano can pull out of the slipstream. It is Coque Lopez and Toyota who win race one of the World Final for the Manufacturer Series. Serrano comes home P2, and it is Nissan P3, Jimmy.
Yes, finally, Sato P3 for Nissan. First podium for a long time in the Manufacturer Series, and that's made my day. Good job, Sato, mate.
Let's take a look at the final results then from that race. Lopez wins it for Toyota. A perfect start for the Japanese manufacturer. Serrano second, Sato in third. The joint point leaders, though, going into this race, Team Mazda only taking 4 points, finishing in P7. And here is what that means for the point standings. It does mean that Porsche are now equal on points to Mazda after race one. Team Toyota with a comfortable advantage as it stands currently. Let's see how that all plays out as we go further on into this World Final.
What a great race by Team Toyota and their driver, Coque Lopez, who's with me now. Coque, well done on that. Some good strategies came through. How do you feel?
Thank you. I feel so good now because I was a bit nervous because I knew Toyota was being pretty fast now, and of course you don't wanna fail. And I knew Josete would be also very fast because Porsche in the race was very good on tire wear. So I tried to do something different and put a very good pace and try not to let Josete attack me in the end. And it was so, but in the end I could make it.
You are very, very good at strategy, but I hate to be the one to tell you this, but Mr. Tom Brooks, he didn't have your back going into that. He predicted that you maybe wouldn't do so well, which is outrageous, and now he looks like a fool.
Now, for me, actually, I think about the total time, it was better to pit in lap 5. But I knew the Toyota first 2 or 3 laps are very good, very strong. So I just tried to do something to avoid Josete to have my slips. And that was my strategy. Actually, it was not as fast. But I knew if Josete didn't have my slips, he wouldn't be that fast.
You are very good at strategizing, Coque. I have to say, even in yesterday's races, you always have an interesting strategy that sometimes really plays off. So well done today. Obviously, you are 8 points ahead. Are you nervous for your teammates moving forward? Because, you know, you've set the bar very high.
Yeah, no, I think my teammates, well, they already showed in the showdown yesterday, Yamanaka-san and Igor, a lot of times, they showed that they are so good. They don't have to have any kind of pressure, just enjoy. And I think we all will try to get the best. I will help with the strategy as always. They will drive, and I think they will be so fast and try to win, of course.
I mean, you say that they're all going to be relaxed, and what they're not going to be, Cocker. You know they're not going to be relaxed. But anyway, big congratulations. You can relax a little bit now.
Thank you.
Next up, second place position was Jose Serrano, who's Team Porsche, who's now 17 points with Team Mazda at the moment. Jose, how are you doing?
Pues ahora mismo muy contento, ¿no? Porque esta P2 para nosotros una victoria para Porsche.
And also, I mean, it was very close between you and Cocker. Honestly, you obviously pitted at slightly different times, but then you were right behind him, so it really could have gone either way.
Sí, la verdad es que quería hacer algo diferente con Coque porque sabía que era muy rápido con el Toyota y sabía también que el desgaste del Supra era muy alto al final del stint, y así que he parado más tarde que él y al final me ha faltado una vuelta más para adelantarlo.
What's your advice to your teammates going into the next race?
Pues sobre todo que disfruten de la carrera porque ya estando ahí delante estamos ya en el podio virtualmente, así que nada, hacerlo lo mejor posible, que se lo pase bien.
Oh, well, that's top advice just for life in general. Thank you so much, Jose. You can relax a little bit now. Right then, Tom and Jimmy are in the GT garage. What did you guys make of race 1?
Well, it was a very interesting first race, wasn't it, in the Manufacturers Series?
Yeah, I mean, a little bit quiet in the overtaking front, but strategically, for nerds like you and me, it was awesome.
Yeah, you were beside yourself after some of the performances we saw out on track. Let's have a look, shall we, at some of those performances. This is Coque Lopez for Toyota.
I think I should pit now.
Okay.
Because if not Josete, even if I pit lap 5, he will be better than me on tyres, and he can pass me.
Yeah, what he was saying there, he was just quite worried that if he didn't pit in early, that the tyre wear on the Toyota would actually be so much compared to the Porsche that Serrano behind would get the overcut and be able to overtake him. But decided to pit early, and here was the result. Serrano there sitting in the pit lane in the Porsche, comes out, you can see pit exit, looks to the left, and there's Lopez, which is the thing you do not want to see when you're hosting Serrano.
And fair play to Serrano, because he really closed up right at the end of that race. I reckon if it had gone on for another lap, he'd have probably been able to have a go, but it was just a little bit too late then for Serrano to have a challenge on Coque Lopez.
Vamos.
And it was a win for Toyota in the
so
first
good.
race.
Good job, mate. Wow, it was trickier in the end, because Josete was better on tyres. I knew he would try in the last sector because Porsche is faster there.
Yeah, good job, good job.
I love the fact that they have so much camaraderie between those three.
I like that, like, Coque Lopez and Igor Fraga having a conversation, and Yamaha is like, yes! I've always got a bit into it.
Another team that didn't have such a good day, though, Miroslav Kravchenko and Mazda.
Think we still have a chance, or?
I don't know. No idea. I'm gonna fully send it.
And fully send it, he tried to. Difficult qualifying there for Kravchenko, but you can see this move here on Soma Aseri in the early stages.
Yeah, nice move. They're not usually a place you overtake as well. And had it all to do, qualifying down, I think it was in P10 in the end. That was Jeff Gallen, by the way, his teammate, who looks a little bit defeated before the race even begun. But Team Mazda alongside Team Nissan, actually the biggest mover in the race. 3 places from their starting position, but still only P7.
Toyota's going to be very difficult to beat.
Yeah, the fact that they're acknowledging that is not a good sign to start with, is it?
I feel like that's what every team is saying after this round, after that performance from Coque and the Toyota team. But yeah, upsetting for Team Mazda, definitely.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's just remind ourselves of the standings as they sit then after that first race. So you can see then that Toyota sits atop of the table on 25 points to Porsche, who've now managed to tie with Mazda on 17. Of course, there's 12 points on offer for the second race. And then, of course, we have the grand final, which is double points, just to remind you as well.
So we're off to a great start in the Manufacturer Series World Finals. But before we get going with race 2, I just wanted to point out this. So tomorrow, during the Nations Cup edition of the World Finals, we're going to do a big reveal. And the only clue that I can give you, aside from the shape of what's in front of me, is it's to do with Porsche. And I can promise you that when you see it, you're going to fall instantly in love with it forever.
Now, Julia, did you mean that everyone's about to fall eternally in love with little old me?
We're already in love with you, but what we're interested in is the fact that you haven't been, like, sneaking a peek at the car ahead of time because we were explicitly told not to.
I've tried.
Did you peek at it?
There's a big thing under there, it's like electric shock. Don't touch it.
All right. Wait, Tom, are you behind there as well? Because I have a distinct impression that you might be.
Sorry about that, yeah.
Why does everyone look so guilty coming out from behind the car? I would say this is getting a bit too weird, but actually I've worked with them for long enough to know that this is actually like really normal behaviour. Time now to get the lowdown ahead of race 2 of the Manufacturers Series at the 2021 Gran Turismo World Finals.
Let's have a look then, shall we, and see what it's all about for race 2. Group 3 cars at the Tokyo Expressway East Outer Loop, racing medium and soft tyres, and they must use each tyre compound at least once.
Yeah, rolling start as well here. I mean, we've had a couple of standing starts recently, but rolling start means the run down the T1 is going to be very, very important. It's a long straight down there, so starting in the lead isn't necessarily the best place to be.
No, blinder if you've had a first race though, because you'll be starting right up the sharp end of the order. You can see there that's how the grid is decided. But if you've not had such a good first race, i.e. Mazda, for example, I'm thinking of, you're going to be starting right towards the back. And with a rolling start, that's going to make things very interesting. Let's see what happens then. Well, let's have a closer look then, shall we, at that massive long straight and indeed the whole of the Tokyo Expressway East Outer Loop. This is a great circuit, a street circuit, no room for error.
Yeah, really fun track. And as I said before, of course, if we sort of look to the top of the circuit towards T1, that's where I think we're going to see a lot of our overtaking, just because of the massive run down the straight, as you said. It's just a drafting opportunity, and that's where you want to try and make those moves. That's the easiest place to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. Turn 12, though, we love turn 12 because it's a big old send on the brakes, and then you've got that long straight, and you can run it up side by side on there, can't you?
Yeah, and we've got a great example of that. Last year, last lap of the race, last corner of the race, was Serrano and Takuma Miyazono. Serrano actually in the lead, takes a tight line, actually overcooks it, goes wide. Miyazono just sneaks up the inside. Serrano, though, did have the cutback, so had the better exit. You can see, of course, in the wet conditions, just scrambling for grip. And we had this awesome photo finish as we came towards the start-finish line. I seem to remember, Tom, you losing your voice at this point, but it was absolutely insane. You see here, that was the gap. Tiny.
It doesn't get much better than that, does it? We love that. That's why we love the Tokyo Expressway. And I think we're probably going to see a bit more of that in this racing here today.
Thanks, guys. Well, let's kick off race 2.
Here we are then, ready to go, lined up on the grid for race 2 of the Manufacturer Series World Final. Tokyo Expressway East Outer Loop is the circuit, and here is how the grid lines up. Tomoaki Yamanaka takes behind the wheel of the Toyota GR Supra, and he's got Tatsuya Sugawara in the Porsche 911 for company alongside him. The second row of the grid is headed by Lim, the Canadian driver in the Nissan GTR, their best finish so far in 2021. Sugimori is in the Honda NSX in P4 on the grid. Next up, it's Thomas Le Boutelet, the Frenchman, in the Volkswagen Beetle. They'll be hoping for some forward progress from P5, with Helt in the BMW M6 lining up in P6. Jeff Gallen in the Mazda. They've admitted they're going to have a difficult day at the office so far. They line up P7 on the grid with Alonso Regalado, the Peruvian, in the Aston V12 Vantage. And Danny Solis lines up P9, the American driver in the Scooby WRX. And completing the top 10 is another Canadian on the grid, Andrew Brooks in the Jag F-Type. Lucas Bonelli is behind the wheel of the Mercedes-Benz AMG GT3 in P11, and completing the 12-driver strong grid is the American Kevin Pounder in the Hyundai Genesis. Racing medium and soft tyres then available for our drivers here, Jimmy. Strategy there up on your screen at the moment. What do you reckon to that?
It looks easy enough, doesn't it? Just start on the softs and go on the mediums from then on. Interestingly enough, only one team opting to start on the softs, and that is Toyota at the front with Tomoaki Yamanaka. So I think he's hoping to try and break away from the pack as quick as possible, which will be difficult given how big the toe is down here, down the main straight. So drivers coming to the start-finish line here to start race 2, the World Final 2021 Manufacturers Series.
So Yamanaka on those soft tyres then, he's going to presumably be able to make a break as quickly as he can, but he's going to need to do that because, of course, the slipstream here is so strong. As you can see, that very, very long straight through turn 13 and all the way down into T1. So the start-finish line here is under the tunnel. We're ready to go racing then for race 2 of the World Finals in the Manufacturer Series. Yamanaka leads the field across the line with Sugawara and Lim ready to closely follow. Let's see what happens then in race 2. You can immediately see the drivers trying to break the slipstream and some weaving as they aim to get heat into their tyres before they come in towards that braking zone. That's exactly what Sugawara is doing as they come into the nightlight then. The headlights glowing here at the Tokyo Expressway East Outer Loop, and let's see if we're going to have a change of position as we can see Lim there closing up onto the back of Sugawara and Yamanaka coming under more pressure as well. Lim's trying to go towards the outside then. It's a very high-speed game of chess. Oh, Lim's really late on the brakes. There's contact there with Sugawara into the first corner. Somehow the the Nissan is up into second place, but I wonder if the stewards are going to be having a look at that.
A decent move that, I think. It's a little bit argy-bargy, and you might think, I mean, you're being a bit biased here because it's Nissan, but actually I think the move was made and Sugawara should have probably given it up. But here we go then, coming through then the twisty bits for the first time. It's Yamanaka leading from Lim from Sugawara. We're on board now with Dean Helt in the BMW, chasing down Labutale in front in the VW. Lots of W's in this race apparently. As we come from the middle section, you can see the understeer there from Dean Helt just losing the back of Labutale. And that's the difference here. You have a bad run through there and that gap opens up very, very quickly. Now Yamanaka in front, he needs to put away as quick as possible. The draft, we say, goes back to about 1.2 seconds or so, 1.1 seconds. So if he can make that gap before they get onto the front straight, he's laughing, but it's definitely a tall order.
Yeah, I'm not sure quite how easy that is going to be there for Yamanaka. He's 8 tenths of a second so far, and this is kind of the opportunity for him to do that in the sort of twisty infield section, as it were. Riding on board here then with Ethan Lim, the Canadian driver. Look at that send from Labutale. That's really late on the brakes. That's into the side of Sugawara, and that is definitely something the stewards are going to be looking at.
Yeah, just forgot the pedal existed there, did Labutale. We've seen that a couple of times. We think, oh, I can make up a few paces there, and then realise everyone braked about 10 metres before them. Like, oh, bother, I'm going to hit someone. I'm at that point, really, there's not much you can do about it. I mean, the mistake was braking late, and of course, then you're almost just a passenger as to where the car ends up. So that'll be probably a slap on the wrist. And interestingly, he's decided Labutale to come into the pits to go onto that soft compounder tyre early. I wonder if that's going to work out. We've seen this happen a couple of times in races where the stop is made very, very early to go onto the soft compounder tyre. But that means now he's got to do the rest of his race on that soft compound. And although the track is mainly straight, it is a very, very high-speed section, which does require to have good tyre life underneath you. So we'll see if those tyres last.
Nissan trying to challenge for second position, coming in towards that right-hander. Look at Jeff Gallen there on the inside. He's trying to go through on Helt there. Can he find his way through on Dean before the end of this straight? No, he couldn't find his way through there at the moment. So in fact he could, I apologise. So he did find his way through up into P5. We're running on board here then with Shohei Sugimori, as he has got Ethan Lim very close behind now through these S-Pens. Look at how much more grip that Nissan has got underneath it, and it looks like he's going to try and challenge into there, but thinks better of it, and that's sensible, because 2x2 under the bridge there doesn't really go.
I think I've seen it happen once and there was a crash afterwards, so it really is one very fast line through here. But all your midnight club fantasies from driving on the Japanese Expressway and old 90s JDM cars come to life here in GT Sport, but with Group 3 cars instead. Can you imagine? You're going down the Expressway, you're just on the way to your night job, and suddenly this gang of GT3 cars comes flying by you on the outside lane.
Labutale's been given a penalty, Jimmy, as well, for that first lap conduct, and that's a 2-second penalty that the Frenchman is going to have to serve in that Volkswagen. He's already 15 seconds off the back as a courtesy of that pit stop. Come back to that. Here's Gallen sending it down the inside of Sugawara into the hairpin. That's how you make a nice clean move into the hairpin, and that sees Jeff Gallen with a bit sideways coming out of turn 12 up into 4th place.
Jeff Gallen, I think, one of these drivers that is kind of criminally underrated in the North America region. He is one of the quicker drivers, and I've seen him on the world stage as well, definitely able to hang with the top end of these guys. So, well, they did say in the first one they're going to send it. Oh, here are some predicted points, so that's going to change very quickly as Ethan Lim goes by there up into P2 in that Nissan. A little bit of a lift there from Sugimori to make sure he gets the overcut, so to speak. Toyota would be leading, of course, Mazda P2 and Porsche P3. Nissan, if they stayed where they were, would be P4, which would be amazing. That'll be, I can go home a happy man if that happened.
Well, let's see what happens. Sugimori then going for the move up into second position. So Honda go through. I say go through into second, but look at the overspeed of Gallen as well as Sugawara. They are through using the slipstream there. Look at how close that was between those two drivers. Lim on the inside of Sugimori now, as that's the battle that was for second. Now for 4th place, contact between the two through the second part of the corner. They're knocking 7 bells out of each other. Dean Helt's ready to try and join in on the action as well in the BMW M6. Jeff Gallen, we're looking back from, has got a great viewpoint of it in his rear view mirrors, but he'll be looking very much up the road. As you can see, those guys still battling amongst one another. Fantastically close racing here at Tokyo.
Oh, 2x2 doesn't go, and Regalado there just nudging Helt into the barrier ever so slightly. Not intentional, just trying to get racing room, so to speak. It's Sugimori as well, but I'm fairly sure whoever's putting that graphic up is doing it to spite me, because as soon as Nissan was second, it was a possibility they go straight down to 4th, don't they? But hey, there it is. But yeah, you can see that's what happens when you try racing through there. You just sort of run out of room and someone gets shuffled, and it's usually into the barrier. That's one of the really cool things about this circuit. It's a street circuit, essentially. So if you do make a mistake, you aren't greeted by runoff, you aren't greeted by gravel, you're greeted by a very, very firm barrier, which will slow you right down if you touch it.
Certainly will. So into that hairpin bend. This is kind of the biggest overtaking opportunity on this lap, really, isn't it? Into that hairpin there.
Well, yeah, unless you're Lago, and then yeah,
it's the biggest opportunity for contact.
Yeah, biggest opportunity to get a penalty. But yeah, it's a good place to send it down the inside there, because the ideal line is to take it wide and cut back, so you can sort of sneak in on that first apex. Of course, it will slow you both down, but it'll be it's a really great spot just to sneak up the inside there once that door opens. So we're going to get some more pit stops now. Sugawara and Gallen, also the rest behind coming in. The only one not to do so, Yamanaka up front, who of course started on the soft compounder tyres. So now, this is the interesting part, really. He's going to be on a tyre that's a little bit slower than these guys, going to be worn a bit more. So will this gap erode? I think what he's hoping is that this will happen. These guys are going to fight, they're going to slow each other down a bit more, and he's just going to drive around on his own. But now, nice little drag race down towards T1.
Penalty for Lim for a second as well. Just trying to figure out what that's all about. That's colliding with another car, we believe, from the stewards that we've just heard. So that's a shame there for Lim. Can't quite work out where that was from. Don't think we saw it on the screen at the time of the collision. But either way, that's going to drop him right to the back of that pack once he serves that penalty. And he's already dropped back into 7th place, courtesy of everybody else around him having the slipstream.
Oh, obviously by a steward, obviously. Yeah, you can't be doing that in this race. No matter who you race for, the stewards will be on you straight away. So unfortunate for Team Nissan, strong start. A second penalty will put you pretty much to the back of the field back here. So that'll be their race, very much affected by that. Meanwhile, Jeff Gallen heading the charge of those who have pitted. Here's a replay. We might see what happens here with this contact.
Up the inside. Ooh, sent Sugimori into the barrier. Helps, didn't really have anywhere to go there, so it becomes then 3 wide. What do you reckon to that, JB?
I think that's actually a bit harsh, honestly. I know this might sound on brand for me, but I think that was a little bit... We've seen moves like that made in the race, and they've gone unpunished. So maybe, obviously, the stewards have more info than we do. They have a lot more info in terms of steering angle and throttle application, stuff like that. But for me, just a bit of a racing incident. They're side by side. I don't think anyone lost out too much. But, yep, obviously the stewards think different, and the penalty in that case will be applied coming onto the straight.
Well, the thing is, obviously, on a traditional racetrack, you've got a bit of runoff to be able to use. Here, it's a barrier, isn't it? So you are going to suffer naturally just because it's a hard thing to hit.
Yeah, but that doesn't excuse anyone. You know, that's the thing. It's the same for everybody else. If you are clobbering someone into the wall, you're going to get punished for it. So it's great to see, by the way, coming into the hairpin, all those brake discs glowing as they get up to temperature. These brakes, of course, in race cars work at peak temperature of 800, 700 degrees. That's where they work best. So when you're coming down in the night like this, you really get to see what that looks like in effect of the glowing disc. So here are the points as they would stand right now. I'd say that because they're going to change very shortly, because Sugawara is going to overtake Gallen going down the straight. We make a bigger deal of it, but it happens every lap because of a slipstream. So also look behind. There'll be other cars joining as well. Oh, I say that. Andrew Brooks.
Hello. Where's he come from?
Off he goes up into P2. They'll then tuck in behind the Canadian driver in the Jaguar. And that is one of the difficulties racing. You could be the fastest guy of anyone in the middle sector, but if you're still within the slipstream range, you are completely vulnerable down the straight.
One thing to mention as well, of course, is keep an eye out for the slipstream, and keep an eye if drivers are able to find their way past before the start-finish line, because that can be very important coming towards the end of this race. Now, Andrew Brooks, this is as high up as we've seen Brooks for quite some time. He's been arguably one of the unluckiest drivers that we've seen in GT Sport, and let's hope that this is going to be a turnaround of fortunes for him in that Jag F type. Certainly not lacking in straight line speed, if nothing else.
No, I think that I'm going to say that you make your own luck in racing. You can be in the wrong place at the wrong time, but if you're always in the wrong place at the wrong time, maybe there's something you've got to look at. Maybe there's something to be a bit more introspective there. But we're on board with Bonelli now. Lucas Bonelli in the AMG. The Mercedes, this is actually a good run from them. They started quite far down the back of the field. They're up into P5 now. They're actually our biggest mover, +6 on their position. Actually, no, I lied, sorry. Andrew Brooks is +8. So these guys are coming from the back of the field here and really doing a great job coming through. And this is what we want to see from the likes of Bonelli and Brooks. But when they're on their date, they are so fast and very difficult to beat. So we're getting a great view now coming down to the hairpin. 2nd to 5th covered by not very much. Still on board with Bonelli. Will he go for a move here in Gallen? No, but Gallen brakes very late. Has to pull out there to avoid hitting Sugawara. I think Sugawara just braked a little bit early, and Gallen wasn't expecting it. He did really well to get inside him there, and now up into 3rd place. And again, that's not something that I would consider a penalty. It's just one of those things that happens when everyone's trying to send himself into a hairpin as quick as possible.
I've no idea how he managed to stop that car then. He was so late on the brakes, and as you said, it wasn't an intentional move by any way, shape or form. Now we're coming down the start-finish straight. This is what I was talking about here, the slipstream, and whether anybody can find their way past before the timing line, which is now. really close there with Benelli, but he's going to have to get a stronger exit out of there if this comes down to the final lap, isn't he?
Yeah, exactly. I think what Tom's saying there is we need to you always have these sort of rehearsals of the run to the line as, again, the position shuffle as we go down towards T1 once again. Gallen now into second, there's third and fourth Sugawara. Benelli's going to drive by all of them, 3 wide for a second, because why the hell not? It's only lap 6, so might as well see what we can do. Is Brooks going to be inside here, try and take the place back? No, there's an air of caution, I think, in Brooks' driving, maybe from all the issues he's had previously. But again, to be honest, he didn't need to do that. We know that Jag, when it's up to steam, it will just go by anybody in a straight line. So he's got a few laps left in this race. There's no reason to worry about it just yet. But to return to the point we're making on the straight there, if you can't pass someone for the start-finish line, you don't really want to be sitting behind them on the last lap through there. You need to make sure you can get that done before the start-finish line. And luckily, you've got about 9 attempts at doing that and seeing if that actually works on the car in front before the real one that matters on the lap 10. Looking like Benelli's had... I thought he was going to have a look at him then. I thought that was going to be a massive crash.
Yeah, that's a one-way ticket to the barrier then, isn't it? Look at how close they are jostling for position through these S-bends here. So the only driver who's not made his pit stop, just to remind you, of course, as you can see with that tower graphic on the left-hand side of your screen, is Tomoaki Yamanaka. He started on the soft compound tyre and is presumably going to do as little time as he possibly can on the medium compound, which is the other compound that they must use in this race. They must make at least one pit stop. They must use each tyre compound at least once. At the moment, he's sitting very pretty 19 seconds ahead because the pit stop lost time, including the tyre change, about 15, 16 seconds or so, and he's got a 19-second advantage.
I think that's in the pit lane, but that doesn't account for when you come out the pit lane slowly onto one of the fastest bits of the circuit. So keep that in mind as well. So that gap, that's a minimum in my mind, that sort of 19, 20 seconds. And that is going to come down, I think, because these guys are all drafting each other down the straight and helping each other to get onto the back of Yamanaka.
Well, they were half a second quicker last time around in terms of the lap times. So that just shows the advantage of the slipstream.
Yeah, definitely quicker here. And if they're clever about it, which they are being so far, and again, that Jag just winding it up, off I go, just straight past it goes, 3 wide again. There's no circuit where 3 wide is like, oh, all right. This is the only circuit where that exists, because they're all so quick down the straight that that's how it is. But again, Brooks leading the chart, just some Sugawara sort of slotting in the second, and Gallen settling for third, and that's how they'll be until next lap. This is just sort of how it is round here. It's just positioning for the final lap. And I've got to say, just to go back to what you were sort of hinting on before, these drivers are some of the best GT Sport drivers in the world, and it might look like this is simple and easy, but bear in mind, they're pushing this car to 100% lap after lap, getting within millimetres of these barriers that would just cause massive crashes if they touch them, whilst racing, whilst looking in their mirrors, and whilst doing strategy.
Yeah, you have to be a multitasker to the extreme, don't you? You've got to manage so many things, your tyres, your brakes, as you said, your strategy, all of those sorts of things. And I don't have the brain capacity to sit here and even talk and work out strategy at the same time.
I'm convinced I saw one of these guys just on their phone down the straight once.
Most probably
what are you doing? My brain cannot comprehend that. And just there's the tiniest touch of the wall there from Andrew Brooks. Just to remind him just how close those barriers really are as we come down to the hairpin once again. Now, interestingly, we've not seen many moves here. They've just sort of followed each other through before. Will we see the same again? Jeff Gallen, we know, is a bit of a demon on the brakes in that Mazda. Is he going to go for a move here and maybe test again that run to the line? Can he get there before he's caught? I think that Mazda actually struggles a bit in the straight line looking it down the straight.
Yeah, it seems to be the case, doesn't it? Of course, rotary engine. I wonder how much they've wound it back now. The race leader Yamanaka comes into the pit lane. 55 litres of fuel, not worried about that in any way, shape or form. But the gap was under 19 seconds before he came into the pit lane then. So let's see how this is going to affect the Japanese driver. Toyota, of course, leading the point standings coming into this race, but where is he going to emerge in relation to everybody else? He's going to be ahead, but of course they have got so much more overspeed as Yamanaka winds up that Toyota, and this is going to get, I reckon, pretty close towards the end of the straight. It's 4.1 seconds, but it's coming down so quickly between them that you can see them slipstreaming one another. Gallen in front of Brooks, in front of Sugawara. So Yamanaka, for the time being, has just about done enough. Here comes Sugawara on Brooks, meanwhile, and Benelli goes towards the outside, 4 wide almost for a brief moment there. Gallen goes to the outside then of Brooks, up the inside tries Brooks, not unable to find his way through. That Mazda certainly is very good on the brakes, and the upshot is that Yamanaka now leads the way, a 1.5 second advantage. So crucially there, Jimmy, just outside of that slipstream range, but he is on the slower compound kind of tyre.
He's got to run away now as Yamanaka. Imagine coming out of the pit lane, looking in your mirror and seeing 4 wide behind you and that getting closer. Here are the predicted points as they stand now. If the race finished right this second, Toyota, Mazda, Porsche, Jaguar, Honda would be your top 5. Yamanaka now, as you say, he is on the slower compounder tyre, but those soft tyres have been fairly well used by Jeff Gallen, Brooks, Sugawara and Benelli. So whether they'll be able to have enough life in the tyre to chase down Yamanaka is another thing. They are gaining. 1.3 seconds now is the gap for the middle sector, and Jeff Gallen can now see his competition. This is a whole new psychological boost when you're there in second place. As soon as you can see the guy in front, you lock on to the back of him, and suddenly you find an extra couple of attempts at the car.
Personal best lap times for Brooks and Sugawara last time around as well, just to mention. The slipstream there proving to be very important as we ride on board here then with Jeff Gallen. So coming in towards the business end then of this race, so late on the brakes there for Gallen. He just has so much confidence in that middle pedal, and that could prove to be really important if that's where he's going to make a move before the end of this race.
Interestingly, Gallen's actually gapped Brooks by a second. The gap to Yamanaka and Brooks behind is pretty much the same right now. So now we're going to see the strength and weaknesses of these cars. Look at that Jag. Look at that relative. It's just pulling that Mazda back in. He's being pushed, I think, by Sugawara. They all want to be in this group. They do not want to let Yamanaka and Gallen get away. Gallen is just outside the draft. That must be horrible for him to see the competitor, but not get the benefit of being behind him. Meanwhile, here come the boys. We have Benelli, we have Sugawara, we have Brooks there in that Jag. We know how fast that thing is in a straight line, and all Jeff Gallen can do is sit there and watch these guys get bigger in his mirror.
Well, I have to say, people will be sat there wondering where on earth has Mazda's pace come from in this race, because they were nowhere in race 1. Why are they so much quicker in race 2?
Jeff Gallen. Dare I say. I mean, I think that just a really, really strong strategy as well from these guys, and as I think, again, Jeff Gallen is really underestimated in his ability in GT Sport. He's someone that I'm surprised we haven't seen competing for a Nations Cup win at some point. I don't think he actually competes in it, which is the thing. He very much focuses on manufacturer series. So I think if he did that, then there'll be someone else to worry about for our Nations Cup guys.
Yeah, he's always sitting there with a smile as we ride on board with Tatsuya Sugawara, meanwhile, who's sitting at the back of this quartet of drivers as we come through in towards these S-bends then. So this is the penultimate time for these drivers to try and close up. And I have to say, the gap has now closed down between Gallen, Brooks, Benelli and Sugawara. So it had increased, but it's kind of the accordion effect going on here.
Dare I say that smile on Jeff Gallen is one of, I guess, indifference, because he knows very shortly he's about to get absolutely freight trained down the straight. Brooks has gained back the draft, and these guys behind are faster. Yamanaka's pulled away. Those medium tyres now up at temperature, they've got just a bit more grip in them than these old softs, so he's able just to get a little bit of a gap, be safe. And Jeff Gallen, again, all he can do, a great lap to get into that position, but it's just not going to be enough down this straight. He's going to be absolutely, if he comes out of his corner anywhere but 4th or 5th, I'll be very surprised.
Did you see Sugawara's wheel spin out of that corner? Come back to that in a few moments' time. Here we are then looking at Lucas Benelli trying to challenge Andrew Brooks, coming on to start the final lap of race 2 for the Manufacturer Series World Final then here. Let's see how these positions are going to change hands. Gallen still sits with a 0.2 of a second advantage, but that's surely going to change hands. Look at the overspeed of Tatsuya Sugawara then as we come out of the tunnel into the nightlight then. Let's see what's going to happen here for Jeff Gallen. Surely he's just going to get absolutely mugged down towards that first corner. Here comes Sugawara to his outside. Benelli's going to try and go there through as well as Andrew Brooks. This is really close indeed between them as they go side by side. Benelli versus Brooks there on the inside as well. Gallen somehow holds on to second place, but Benelli's through into third.
You know, I said that I didn't think Jeff would come out of that corner anywhere but 4th or 5th, but he got a massive punch there coming into the braking zone. Basically got a big bump draft. You heard the revs rise. I think it was Benelli went into the back of him. And now Gallen, Benelli, Brooks and Sugawara is your order for the second place battle. Yamanaka seemingly going to win it at the front, just 1.5 seconds clear at the moment for Toyota. All he's got to do now is be nice and clear and tidy through this section. Let these guys squabble. He's got no interest in what's going on behind him. Just look forward. He knows if he gets onto the straight with about a second advantage that he's pretty much guaranteed to get to the line first. But Gallen now has to do all the work in this middle sector to try and gap Benelli behind him.
So coming in towards the final sector we go then. Here is Tomoaki Yamanaka. What a brilliant performance it's been. That gap is coming down incrementally, but I think he's just going to have done enough to be able to hold on to that race lead, unless Jeff Gallen can be a Dan there on the brakes and somehow pick up the slipstream. But I think he's going to have to hope for a mistake from Yamanaka. Don't think Gallen's going to be coming under any immediate pressure from behind. Are the guys in behind him going to be thinking about a move? Well, let's see what happens then. Looks like they're all staying as they were, coming out of turn 12 and into turn 13. Tomoaki Yamanaka's going to clean up with this one. What a brilliant display of driving it is once again for Toyota in race 2 of the World Final for the Manufacturers Series. Tomoaki Yamanaka into the tunnel and across the timing line, but second place is getting really close there between Gallen and Benelli. Yamanaka wins race 2 of the World Final, but it's side by side to the line. The second and Benelli mugs Gallen on the line. Sugawara ahead of Brooks as well. Brooks does get it on the line. In fact, I apologise. So Brooks got up to 4th, Sugawara down to 5th, Sugamori in 6th, Lynn then Helt, Regalado, Pounder inside the top 10 as well. What a frenetic end to race 2. Well, let's have a look at the results then after that's all calmed down. A great display of driving there, Jimmy, from Yamanaka.
Yeah, awesome. That strategy was 100% what they needed to do. Of course, full 12 points for Toyota, so 2 for 2 for them at the moment. Benelli just about getting Gallen on the line. I saw his driver cam. He looks absolutely ecstatic at that as well. Brooks 4th and Sugawara 5th. But a bad day at the office, though, for Daniel Soler, down in 12th place for the reigning champion Subaru. And here's how the points standings look then after 2 races. It is Team Toyota leading by 12 points from Team Mazda. Team Porsche still in 3rd place. So realistically, really, it's now between the top 3.
So a great win for Toyota and their driver Tomoaki Yamanaka in race 2. And he's with me now. Tomoaki, how are you feeling after that? Because I feel like Tokyo Expressway is very stressful.
Yes. Yeah, really happy.
It's a very, very intense race there, and you made some incredible strategies to stay ahead. Was this your plan from the start?
いや、実は僕はミディアムスタートにしたかったんですけど、コケとイゴールがソフトでいけという指示が出て、ちょっと正直実は信じていいのかなっていう不安もあったんですけど、2人が言うから間違いないと思ってそれを信じてソフトスタートを選びました。
I mean, Koke has some interesting strategies that, they do pay off, but I think it helps also that Igor maybe agreed too, yes?
いや、そうですね。正直本当にもう最後のその10秒までずっと迷っていて、これを本当に信じていいんだろうかっていう気持ちの方が大きかったんですけど、そこはやっぱりチームメイトを信じるしかないなっていう気持ちに切り替えて、それをうまく実行できたと思います。いや、本当に良かったです。
Well, yeah, it definitely paid off. And the thing is, you can just blame them later if it was the wrong decision. Pressure's off. I'm just kidding. Well, look, you're 12 points ahead for Toyota. So any advice to Igor for the last race? Now the pressure's off you.
いや、そうですね。イゴール、ニュルブルクリンクス非常に得意としているので、彼ちょっと苦い思い出が昔あったかと思うんですけど、それを気にせずに全力で行ってきてくれたら嬉しいなと思います。
No pressure, but don't mess it up, Igor, I guess. Thank you so much and big congratulations. So talking with us now is Jeff Gallen, who is driving for Mazda, who are now 2nd overall. So Jeff, how are you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. Started 7th. This had my only thing I had to do, the only thing I wanted to do was how to get my driver an opportunity for the last race. We're 2nd in points. All we have to do is get an opportunity. Anything can happen. So let's go.
Was it quite a stressful race for you? Were you feeling the pressure?
No, it's just I knew that it was just going to be a chaotic race. I don't know why no one passed Toyota at the front. It's a big gap. We needed something to happen. It didn't, but now we have the opportunity. That's all we can ask for. So we'll see what can happen.
Well, that's it. I mean, it's still everything to play for. And obviously, being sort of pipped by Benelli, just before the line, I don't know, because it's going to be close. So hopefully that won't matter. But you know what? You've got the right attitude towards it, which is just like maximum points best you can. So you smashed it.
It's just World Finals is just very difficult in general. Like everyone is just so good. Like anyone can win any race and anyone can win any race. It just depends on the weekend. But the fact that we're 2nd, opportunity for a title, anything can happen. I'm happy. I think the whole team's happy. We can't ask for anything better.
Oh, well, perfect. Huge congratulations, Jeff. You can relax a little bit now. Well, I don't know how much you can actually relax watching the final race, but try to. You've done your best.
Thank you very much.
All right, thanks.
Thank you.
OK, congratulations once again, and very best of luck in the deciding race. So, Tom and Jimmy, what's your take on race 2?
To be honest with you, Jules, I thought that was a really good race. What about you?
I mean, that race just built and built and built until we had this massive explosion of activity in the last 2 laps. It's absolutely amazing to watch.
Yeah, it really was. Let's have a look at this battle between Mazda and Mercedes then. You can see this is Lucas Bonelli making his way through the field. Just brilliant driving, really, from the Brazilian. What we love to see from Bonelli. He always gets his elbows out. Jeff Gallant, also worth mentioning as well, the Mazda driver fought his way up from 7th to 2nd place at this point. You can see them all getting in and amongst the mix. Sugawara on the outside here. Andrew Brooks for Jaguar involved there. It's just phenomenal.
Yeah, all squabbling. And again, we can't overstate how great of a drive it was from both Mazda and Mercedes to come from the back of the field. Here was the last lap.
Oh man, that's not good.
But the reason why Jeff's saying that is you can see Bonelli in his mirrors coming very quickly towards the start-finish line and just
third.
about, I think, pipping him at the line right at last second. Bam! There it is on the line. 2nd place. Here's his reaction.
Wow! I was some.
Baptiste
Yeah, that's Lucas Bonelli's teammate, Baptiste Beauvoir. That's Jeff Gallant for Mazda. My goodness, I mean, he's got to be so disappointed with that because he really put his heart and soul into that drive and then to be denied right at the checkered flag.
Well, you heard him. I gave it everything, which I think is completely appropriate. Both of them had amazing drives. I think, of course, he'll be upset with that 3rd place, but still be really proud of the performance in general.
Of course, yeah. Worth mentioning Toyota as well because tyres were an interesting point over the course of this race in terms of the strategy. And what actually happened was Toyota decided to go for something completely different. They started on the soft, everybody else went on to the mediums.
Yeah, we snapped behind the scenes earlier on when they were discussing their tyre strategy. It's super interesting, so take us into this.
Everyone medium, please. Everyone mediums, please. Yes!
Yes! Yes! I love Yamanaka's reaction to that. I mean, starting on the soft compound of tyres, hoping that everybody else goes for the mediums. It's a strategy that worked out really nicely, though.
They just wanted to be on their own. That was the idea. Get out on their own, get out of all that squabbling you saw in the last clip. And it really paid off because when the new set of tyres did go on, you see in the background, look how far back everybody is. They did get quite a little bit towards the end, but it wasn't quite enough for them to catch Yamanaka. And in the end, it was basically a lights to flag victory.
Yeah, Yamanaka was able to make hay whilst the sun shone, basically, over the course of that race, coming across the line to take a checkered flag. 2 wins from 2 races.
I'm
living for Yamanaka's reaction. Brilliant.
Yeah, I mean, like, that's exactly what they need right now. That's 2 wins, 2 races, really, really strong going into the grand final. Of course, I think they are also happy at the result for Mercedes and Mazda, of course, because Mazda, they were their closest rivals. And then when they found out that they actually got the 3rd place, that was almost as big of a win for them as actually winning the race itself.
Yeah, have a look at this.
Go Bonelli! Go Bonelli! Yes! Yes, Bonelli 2nd.
Oh, the relief on Tomoaki Yamanaka's face. Just brilliant. Let's take a look, shall we, and just remind ourselves of the point standings then after race 2 in the Manufacturers Series. So it sits like this. Toyota atop of the standings. They are on 37 points compared to Mazda's 25. So, yeah, a good advantage going into the grand finals.
Yeah, massive gap, 12 points now. Of course, Porsche on 23 points as well. So all still to play for the podium, but very strong for Toyota right now.
And don't forget, double points for the grand final too.
So it's going to be Team Toyota and Igor Fraga on pole position for the grand final, where our Manufacturers Series champions are going to be decided. But before we get to that, you'll remember that during the World Series 3 broadcast, we showed you that wonderful Gran Turismo 7 trailer that Jimmy got so excited about. Actually, to be fair, we all kind of got quite excited about it. And if that wasn't enough, we have a whole host of videos about the new features in GT7 on the Gran Turismo YouTube channel. So don't forget to check those out. And remember that you can pre-order the all-new GT7 on the PlayStation Store or via your favourite retailer on the 4th of March or before. Right, let's find out more about the track for the grand final.
One last dance in 2021, the Nürburgring plays host to our grand final for the Manufacturers Series, specifically the 24-hour layout. This is a brilliant circuit, as you can see, 25.3 kilometres, many sectors, but I reckon, JB, the overtaking opportunities are going to be on the long straight, the Dottinger and T1 on the GP circuit. What do you reckon?
You'd think with 147 corners there would be more overtaking opportunities, wouldn't you? But unfortunately, of course, the way the circuit is laid out, quite old school, very high curves and very fast flowing corners, which means overtaking places are at a bit of a premium.
Certainly are. 300 metres of elevation. Let's have a closer look, shall we, at the race details going into this grand final then. Group 3 cars. For the first time today, we've got racing hard, medium and soft tyres, so strategy coming into play over 5 laps. Probably a good chance for us to have a look at who's lining up where on the grid as well. Igor Fraga will start on pole position, Baptiste Beauvoir alongside him. Crucially though, Jimmy, last year's champions down in P12, last on the grid.
Yeah, Danny Solis unfortunately having a bad race last time out, which means Takuma Miyazono has it all to do here in the grand final.
As we all ponder who will become our 2021 Manufacturers Series champions, who better to join me for a chat than the producer of the Gran Turismo series, Kazunori Yamauchi himself. Yamauchi-san, what are your reflections on this year's Manufacturers Series?
今年のマニュファクチャラーシリーズって、トヨタが2勝、ポルシェが2勝、そしてスバルが1勝っていう、シリーズで来たわけですよね。でも結果的にこのワールドファイナルが始まる時点では、ポイントランキングでトヨタとマツダが全く同点で並んでこのワールドファイナルに、が始まったわけですね。だからどのマニファクチャラーが勝つのか本当にわからないシーズンだったと思います。
I think, Kazunori, we need to bring you into the commentary team. This is a good read. You can come join Tom and Jimmy. You've raced the Nürburgring 24 hours race in real life. What was the sort of biggest lesson you learned from actually racing on that track?
ニュルブックリンクは本当に多くのことを僕学びました。実際にレースすることでね。で、一番大きかったのはグラントリスモスポーツを作ることにもつながるわけですけれども、やっぱりそのスポーツマンシップですね。あのコースでは実際にスポーツマンシップがないと人が死んじゃうんですよ。だから一般的なスプリントレース以上にね、それをきちんと全てのドライバーが考えていないと危険なレースなので、僕はそこで本当にモータースポーツにおけるスポーツマンシップを学びましたね。
Absolutely, and you can see that level of sportsmanship in all of our drivers and all throughout the game, in fact, so we can definitely all see that. Thank you so much for joining us, Kazunori Yamauchi, and I hope you and the audience in Tokyo get a race fitting for deciding the title, and we look forward to speaking to you again tomorrow. Right, I just wanted to say good luck and thank you to all of the teams who have made the Manufacture Series such a joy this year, and there is no need to wait any longer. Yes, the grand final is here.
Here we are then, ready to go for the grand final of the Manufacturers Series in the World Final in 2021. This is how the grid is lined up. It's Igor Fraga who starts on pole position for Team Toyota. On the front row of the grid alongside him is Baptiste Beauvoir in the Mercedes-Benz AMG GT3. Ryota Kokuban takes the wheel of the Mazda RX Vision GT3. And then next up it's Adam Tapai in the Jaguar F-Type. Easily their best starting position of the year so far. Angel Stroza leads Porsche's charge from 5th on the grid. And then next up it is Valerio Gallo, the Italian driver, in astonishing form so far. Can he elevate Honda to the podium finishings?
Then Hafidi in the Nissan GT3.
And it's then Belic in the BMW M6. Nikita Moisov lines up P9 on the grid in the Aston V12 Vantage. Completing the top 10 is the Australian Andrew Lee. And the final row of the grid is Sternberg, the Brazilian driver in the Volkswagen Beetle. Next up, Takuma Miyazono for Subaru. A lot of work to do from back on the 12th on the grid. Ready then to go for the grand final as the drivers depart from the grid. Jimmy, strategy coming into this one, medium, soft and hard racing tyres available. What do you reckon?
I think that the ideal solution for these guys is when they go onto the soft tyre, they need free air. It's really, really hard to overtake around here, so getting out on your own on the fastest tyre and getting those lap times in the event is going to be crucial for your final finishing result.
See the top 4 there starting on the soft compound of tyres. Everybody else bar Kevin Belic in the BMW starting on the hard compound of tyres. Let's see how this plays out then as we get ready to go racing for one last dance in 2021 in the Manufacturers Series. Igor Fraga and Toyota will lead the field across the line here at the Nürburgring 24 hours layout then. Who is going to claim the checkered flag? It's advantage Toyota going into this one, but we are ready to go racing. The grand final for the Manufacturers Series is underway, and Fraga leads the field down towards that first corner, followed by Baptiste Beauvoir, then Cockerman, then Adam Tapai. Those are your four drivers on the soft compound of tyres, but look at everybody else on the hard tyres. They try to make their moves. Here comes Cockerman down the inside of Baptiste Beauvoir through into second position as well, and you can see that Inestrosa's trying to get his elbows out on Valerio Gallo in the background in the Porsche as well. Tries to find his way through. Up into fifth position goes Angel Inestrosa, so a promising start there for those drivers, but it's Fraga from Cockerman from Beauvoir at the front.
Yeah, and pretty much the order they go on to the Nordschleife proper is going to be the order that they stay until the last straight, unless anyone can just sneak by in the draft there. Now, Belic there down in 7th place. He needs to get by Inestrosa and Gallo as quick as possible. Otherwise, there's one of them. He's now past Gallo. He needs to be ahead of that train going on to the Nordschleife. Otherwise, he's going to lose an absolute ton of time on that medium compound.
So in towards the Michael Schumacher S, these drivers go. Fraga already beginning to gap Cockerman, then 0.7 of a second. The advantage sits. I mean, he's so quick here at this circuit, isn't he, Cockerman?
Cockerman is, but I tell you who is quicker, Igor Fraga. There have been many times, I say this a lot, where I've logged on to his YouTube stream and he's just practicing around here, doing races starting from the back and just seeing how far through the field he can get, and usually he makes it all the way up to the front. So if there's anyone to beat round here, it is Igor Fraga. Meanwhile, Belic there in the BMW looking to try and get past Inestrosa. He needs to get that done. I wonder if Inestrosa is going to fight this too much. No, he doesn't. So that's actually ideal there for Belic. So now he can try and have a little bit of a gap from his hard runners. He's unlikely to catch the guys on the soft, but can still make his own space and just put in his own lap time.
Yeah, just important to be sensible there then for him. So riding on board here we are with Baptiste Beauvoir as we come in towards the Nordschleife then. So we're now on to the green hell, as it were, in towards this right-hander and flicking it through there. These soft compound runners are going to be grinning like a Cheshire cat. The thing is, they have got full tanks of fuel, so it's not going to be quite as much fun as driving this under qualifying conditions.
No, but of course you've got some of the best drivers in the world around you, so the challenge of it is awesome, and I envy these guys getting to do this as fun. And Miyazono up to 8th place. Why, I didn't see that. He started last, so he's made up 4 places already as Miyazono. Here's the replay of the start. Let's see if we can sort of decrypt what happened here as we go down. There is Miyazono on the inside. There's Belic going past Gallo and just making his way through, and Miyazono in the background just picking up the stragglers, isn't he? Just trying to make his own little way through. Passing Nissan on the inside. There's Lee goes wide on the outside. Ooh. There's contact as well there. So it all kicked off at the start there. And somehow Miyazono managed to recover and go back up to 8th place.
Lovely stuff there from Miyazono. You can see there as well the Nissan going side by side with the Aston Martin. And that position exchanged hands. And it's the Aston Martin that's now ahead as Hafidi is now down into last and 12th position then in this race. Running on board here we are with Baptiste Beauvoir. Under the bridge we go. So let's see how this is all going to play out then as we ride on board here. And as you said, it's so much one a time through here at this sort of point in the circuit, Jimmy, that there's not really any opportunities to find his way through. Though Beauvoir is quicker, you can see him there lifting off the throttle and just taking things a bit steady.
Such a fast section through there. I always grimace a bit through there because I actually did a 24-hour race here and crashed there on lap 3 of a 24-hour race, and my good friends have still never let me live that down. But every time you go through there, the car is right on the limit of grip. Now, there's quite a bit of air on these Group 3 cars. They do stick to the ground going over the rise there, but if you get off the throttle in a way a little bit too aggressively, the weight can shift and you can end up finding yourselves very quickly in the barrier on the outside of the corner. So as we predicted, and speaking of predictions, here are the predicted points, by the way. Toyota would of course run away with this series, double points for this last round, so big points score for Toyota, Mazda, Porsche, Mercedes-Benz and Jaguar making up the rest of the places. But Igor Fraga is just pulling away from these guys, and Cockerman and Baptiste Beauvoir, these are not slow drivers. These are some of the best in the world, these guys, definitely in the top 10 in my opinion, and Fraga is making them look slow.
So let's see how this all is going to then play out as we come through these tight and twisty corners. Looking here at Baptiste Beauvoir, the gap now between himself and Adam Tapai sits at 1.5 seconds. So Tapai, though that Jaguar is on the soft tyres, and though it is of course quicker than those behind him, he's just not got the pace to be able to run with these top 3 as it stands. So be keen to see how this all plays out then for Jaguar and for Adam Tapai with these strategies then. So here we see Ryota Cockerman then and Mazda. Great to see them getting their act together really after a difficult start to the Manufacturer Series World Finals, because they had a shocker of a race 1. Gallo really turned the tables round in race 2, and as such, because of course the starting positions for this grand final were based off of the results of the previous race, it does mean that Kokubun's now right up the sharp end of the field.
We'll go for a move here. He does. He looks to the inside of the corner. Kokubun gives him the racing room, which is very wise up here. Very, very narrow bit of circuit. You can see they can barely make 2x2 as they go up through that section there, and Beauvoir goes up into second place. Now the question is whether he can gap Kokubun for this last part of the course, this last sector of the Nordschleife, and I'm incredibly biased, but I don't care. I think it's one of the best bits of circuit in the world, and we're about to see some of the best drivers in the world take it on. We are in for a treat here over the course of this race, that's for sure.
So coming in towards this carousel section, then this is, as Jimmy said, a fantastic part of the track. Into there, then run through the banking, and then back on, up onto the, I guess, normal quote-unquote part of the circuit. So.
There's no normal bit on this circuit, mate. It's all like this. This is a great section through here. It's all about bravery. And you can see on the side of the course, there's a little bit of grass. Now we're getting a replay. This is Belic here, who made his way by Gallo. And with great respect to our replay director, I don't really care about this right now, but let's have a look. He goes by Gallo. That's him up to 6th place. Very nice. And we know he gets in Astroza after that as we go from there. So now I'd much rather look at these guys going through the Nordschleife. Don't make you, Tom.
Well, let's have a look and see what happens going into the hairpin. Yeah, nice move there for Belic up into P5. So a good move there for him, and he's now got a bit of clear track in front of him. As we saw earlier on, of course, he is on the medium competitive tyre. He now has a 3-second advantage over Valerio Gallo. So really important there for Belic to do that, because, of course, he's on a quicker compound tyre compared to those around him. If he was stuck behind some hard runners, especially as he's on this Nordschleife and you can't really get your way past at that point, would be pretty disastrous for that strategy, though.
Yeah, and speaking of these hard runners, here they are. There's Gallo and Astroza, Miyazono and Sternberg, all separated by not very much at all. And this can be a frustrating section if you're someone like Miyazono, because we know that Subaru, pretty well-handling machine. It's quite light, lots of aero, and but through this section, of course, this is where you'd really be using that. When you're stuck behind the car in front, there's not much you can really do but follow him. So that advantage that you do have is then completely negated, and you get onto the straight, and there's nothing you can do but sit there and lose time. So it can be a frustrating circuit in the Nordschleife if you can't quite get into the place on the circuit that you want to be in.
So drivers now coming in towards the latter part of the circuit, in towards the Dottinger Höhe, the really long straight, as you can see on the track map on the right-hand side of your screen. This is where we're expecting the overtakes to sort of take place. The real overtaking opportunities begin to start there, because it's such a long straight as you run down there. We should also expect the hard runners to come in at the end of this first lap. They want to be on those tyres for as little time as possible, and given it's only 5 laps, I say only because of course it's such a long lap here that it does take a fair amount of time to get round, but they'll want to be on those for as minimum time as possible, so they'll probably come in at the end of this lap and get themselves onto a set of mediums or indeed a set of soft tyres. Now, on board here with Kokubun down the Dottinger Höhe then, so you'd expect him to have the overspeed on Baptiste Beauvoir. He does indeed, pulls to the inside, easy as you like there for Kokubun, back through into second place.
Yeah, that's going to be frustrating for Beauvoir, because he did all the work to get the place and then of course nothing from it. Here's Miyazono trying to get by in Astroza in the Porsche. He's got the overspeed, and so Sternberg, but you can see that I keep calling it Toyota, that Subaru is really slow in a straight line. He's struggling, just trying to hold on to the back there, but managing to keep his 8th place, and Sternberg in the VW getting both of them on the straight up into P7. So maybe he'll now be the cork in the bottle as we come now to the end of the first lap, and Beauvoir is desperately trying to get back by Kokubun. And that gap, look at that gap, it's 3.7 seconds at the end of one lap from Igor Fraga back to the 2nd and 3rd place drivers. He is absolutely untouchable around this circuit. Let's hope he can keep it all together as Beauvoir goes for the move on the Ryota Kokubun up into 2nd place. Very nice, got the place back, and Adam Tapai back there probably smiling a bit, thinking, thank you mate, just please keep doing that, let me get onto the back ears.
Yeah, the gap between themselves and Adam Tapai has now come down to just under 2 seconds. As we expected, all the hard runners have come in, except for Valerio Gallo, as I can see on screen at the moment. So Gallo has continued on for another lap on those hard tyres. Wondering what that is all about, but Gallo seems to have these oddball strategies sometimes, especially more recently, and it seems to sort of work out for him. I don't know how he manages to do it.
Well, to be honest, our stat monkeys behind the stage have actually drawn a blank on that. They don't know. they don't know what he's doing, and I can't tell you either. So that is, I don't foresee that working, Valerio. But he knows best. He's a quick guy, so we'll see. You know, I've been proven wrong many times before, and I don't mind it. So I'm sure he'll prove me wrong again.
I guess the idea is that he's thinking, if I do another lap on the hard tyres, everybody else has pitted. I've got 25 seconds. Of course, he's going to lose a bit of time, but he'll have then fresher, medium or soft tyres to the end of the race. But there's no room to use it.
Yeah, but it won't matter. He'll be stuck in a train. If he's slow, he'll be stuck behind these guys probably. So yeah, it just won't matter, I don't think. But we'll see. That's the great thing about these races. We're going to find out either way. And we go back on board with Miyazono following Sternberg there in the VW Beetle as we come through the GP circuit. It's funny how different these tracks are. I find that for myself that I'm actually really quite slow through this part of the circuit, but then I get onto the Nordschleife and I know that place very well, so I'm fairly quick. I wonder if it's the same for some of these guys as well.
I love the GP circuit. I used to love it when Formula 1 went there.
Yeah, it's a great track, of course, and really fun to drive around, but nothing compared to the Nordschleife.
Do you remember the 2007 European Grand Prix? You can't forget that, where they had it bucketed it down after one lap and then Winkelhock led.
I'm a bit older than you. I remember the 99 Grand Prix, so...
Oh, okay, fair enough. Oh, the false start and Herbert won it.
Yeah, so there's a lot of great history there, of course, as well, as is history on the Nordschleife, where F1 used to race back in the 60s, where they were all insane. So I wouldn't want to go there then. But back to this race, Baptiste Beauvoir is still leading Kokubun. You see, just sort of dragging him down the straight. These guys are unsafe. Oh, that's not where you want to go. I'm surprised that car stayed glued to the circuit. That curb can spit you out, and Kokubun really risking it all for not really much gain, because he's in second now, but this is where he was before.
Yeah, that's so aggressive from Kokubun really early in this race. Through into second place he does go though, regardless, definitely signifying his intentions and that you can pass at places where you wouldn't expect to do so. I mean, I was just about to start singing Baptiste Beauvoir's praises, but I think I should turn that around and sing Kokubun's praises after that, because I'm surprised he's able to get in the car, given, well, I was going to use to coin a phrase after, yes, anyway, I'll move on.
Given some heavy objects that maybe attached to his body. But at this point, like, that overtake is very much I'm overtaking you, or we're having a big crash, and that is, that's very, very stern from Kokubun. Meanwhile, 5 seconds up the road, that's 5 seconds up the road on the same tyres. Igor Fraga, he's just having a great time out there. He's just hot lapping. This is the Igor Fraga of old. I'd say Igor, to say he struggled this season would be maybe a little bit unfair. He's just not been the same sort of domineering force that he has been in the past. But he's very much a driver that likes to lead from the front. And when he does, he is almost untouchable. Again, a 5 second gap on some of the guys behind. I know they've been fighting a bit, but that is a massive margin for these guys. We usually talk about tenths or hundredths, and he's got 5 seconds on the rest of them.
One thing I love about watching Igor Fraga on board here as well is you can see through these corners, look how smooth he is through the steering there. Just one correction of the steering wheel, not wrenching it, and just like a knife through butter, isn't he?
It's all about being smooth around here. There are so many hidden cambers and dips at the Nordschleife that if you know where they are, you just gain time. And I have a feeling that Igor could probably map out this entire place, including all the elevation degrees and angles from memory. That's how much he drives this circuit. Meanwhile, we go back to Angel Nestroza. He's currently in 9th place, 4th of the medium runners, if you include Kevin Bellerton, who's yet to stop, which we will for now, in this little gang, which is stuck behind Sternberg. I think he's a cork in the bottle a bit here.
Certainly is, yeah. Sternberg has been pretty quick actually in that Volkswagen Beetle. Certainly got good straight line speed, but it hasn't performed so well at other circuits over the course of the 2021 Manufacturers Series season. Let's hope that Sternberg can keep hold of that 7th place, but you dare say that Miyazono and Nestroza, they've got the talent to be running at the sharp end of the field, and they're going to be wanting to get themselves ahead of Sternberg before too long.
Well, we know that, driver speed, whilst it's a factory manufacturers series, isn't the be-all and end-all. It is about the car and the manufacturer themselves. And we've spoken about BOP again before. And round here, of course, going up the hill, if you're to Takuma Miyazono, you now ruin the fact that you probably haven't got that much power from that boxer engine propelling you along. But Sternberg is giving a draft, and Miyazono is gaining. Now, we saw an overtake here between Kokubun and Beauvoir on the previous lap. Will we see it again? Well, we don't know. but here is Kokubun. He's now actually gapped Beauvoir by 1.2 seconds. So it's been a very strong middle sector. And crucially, if he can keep that gap coming onto the straight, he will not be giving a toe to Beauvoir.
Yeah, that'll be very welcome there for him. And I wonder whether Kokubun is going to be able to do that. 1.2 seconds, as you said, Jimmy, is the gap. Now let's keep an eye on it and see how it increases or indeed decreases over the course of the next sort of half a lap or so.
What section?
It's fantastic, isn't it?
Yeah, I know.
It's poetry in motion watching these cars go through.
It's great on board here. Look at all this canvas. You want to dive into the inside here, get this little bit here. You can run a bit wide on this right-hander, but you want to make sure you're really tight on this next little bit. Don't touch that curve, though. You can run wide to the curb here. This is YouTube corner. Really easy to actually loop the car here. Again, run out to the outside, use the curb, and now set yourself up for this quite tight, deceptively tight left-hander. The curb comes in to meet you on the right-hand side, so you can sort of run it over, as Kokubun does, straight line it, And now we go downhill. You can get some air here if you're feeling a little bit spicy. Let's see, over the jump, will he get some air? A little bit there, but very, very, I think, sensibly braked a little bit before that. Now we have a blind apex. You go over the hill at 200 k's, you can't see the corner you're driving into. It's all about knowing the circuit. Now there's a little roller coaster section through here where it's actually a lot tighter than it is because, again, the curbs come in to meet you, so you find yourself going down this very narrow alley, and then after that very fast part of the course, you've got to downshift down a fifth, down a fourth, and then down a third to try and get the car to rotate as we come up to the Kleiner carousel, the little mini carousel, where we had our awesome little booth back at the 2019 Nürburgring 24 Hours. It's one of the best memories I've had of working in the GT Sport program. And now we go to Igor Fraga, who actually has lost a bit of time to Kokubun.
Has a little bit, yeah. And also, if you are playing along at home with the GT Sport Bingo, then you can feel free to cross that one off your list, because that was one that we were definitely going to mention at some point in the Nordschleife.
It's great. All right, it was a good time.
It certainly was. Yeah, I have to say, just keeping an eye on the gap between Gallo and Sternberg. We were expecting it to come down. It was 25 seconds at the start of the lap. It's now down to 21.3, which is not a pit stop's distance between himself. So I wonder what the tactic was there between Valerio Gallo, or whether there was a bit of brain fade going on. Either way, he is then presumably going to drop behind Sternberg when he comes in, we think, at the end of this lap. And it won't just be Sternberg that it'll lose out to, because of course Miyazono and Inestrosa are going to be ready to try and go through as well, and I imagine probably will do so given how close they are behind the Volkswagen driver.
Yep, I mean, again, it's had no idea what he was doing. I don't think he did either, to be fair. But anyway, there's a battle going on now. Slipstream battle, as we call it, between Inestrosa and Miyazono. Meanwhile, we have our two leaders. Yeah, we have the top four drivers coming in for the medium tyres. So 2 laps is about all those soft tyres can manage around here before going on to the medium, which says to me, of course, 1 lap at the end on the hard compounded tyre. You see that Miyazono, even though he's in the draft, just cannot get by Sternberg.
No, certainly can't. Yeah, the straight line speed of that Subaru has not been quick so far this year, and it proves to be the case. Igor Fraga out of the pit lane then, and he will retain the race lead. He's now on to the medium compound tyres. You can hear the high-pitched shriek of the rotary engine just going past us, as well as Kokubun emerges from the pit lane, now 4.9 seconds behind Igor Fraga. So the gap relatively similar to what it was before the pit stops. Here's Gallo into the pit lane, then onto the medium compound of tyre, but he's going to drop right to the back of that gaggle, and there you go, down in 9th place.
Yeah, just
10th place even.
Yeah, Lee as well getting by on the Hyundai. So again, I'm not really sure what the strat was here. I can't tell you. I would love to be able to tell you some sort of like really big brain moment and tell you how it was, but I think he's just ruined it doing that strat. But anyway, he can deal with that. We'll deal with the commentary. I think that's how we do things here. So, yeah, Igor Fraga. But when you're out front like that, the best thing you can do is come at the pit lane and see clear air. You're like, yeah, that's pretty sweet. Love a bit of that. So, Kokubun, yeah, I mean, the gap is now back to about 5 seconds where it was before. Both rather interesting. He has to sort of fallen off a bit, hasn't he?
He has a little bit, yeah. I was really impressed actually with how well he's been doing in this Mercedes, because this Merc has not been the quickest car so far this year. You can see live points on your screen, by the way. Come back to that thought about Beauvoir in a few moments' time. There is Toyota. They would dominate this one. 3 wins in 3 races, 61 points on the board. It would be with Mazda finishing in second and Mercedes-Benz in third. Porsche, though, and Jaguar not too far away. There are still 2 laps left of this grand final, of course, so that's certainly something to consider, because all of these positions, for example, Angel Inestrosa, they could take a position away at the end of this race.
So they could do. They could just very quickly sneak a position every now and then. And for Porsche now, really every position does count. They need to have as many points as possible for a chance of that podium. So it really is going to be a bit of jeopardy for Angel Inestrosa. He needs to get on with it, so to speak. He's sort of been sitting there just chilling out, hasn't he? He needs to get on with it now and get past Sternberg and Miyazono, because that Porsche, we know how fast it is, but not when it's being held up.
And that could be the difference between Porsche finishing in 4th place or taking a podium finish in the overall manufacturer series in 2021. They're only 1 point behind Mercedes at the moment. Merc haven't got any threat from behind. They're not close enough to challenge Kokubun in front. So if Inestrosa can get himself ahead of Miyazono and ahead of Sternberg here, that could be enough for Porsche to get the podium and to demote Mercedes-Benz down into 4th.
It's worth noting as well, if we looked at the driver lineups, a lot of the teams opted to put their ringer in, I suppose, for the last race here at the Nordschleife. Not to say, of course, that the other team members are slower or faster, but there is definitely a higher strength of field for this race than I'd say maybe for the first race. And I was interested to see that they opted for Kokubun and not Gallen actually for the last race, but I guess Kokubun's had a bit more success recently.
Yeah, I would imagine so. I mean, Cockburn, we know how quick he can be. Of course, won the World Tour back in Tokyo in 2019. The emphatic heat we saw there. I mean, when he won and all of the crowd and his fellow Japanese competitors rushed him onto the stage. It was just a brilliant sight, and we know how quick Cockburn can be. Came very, very close last year to doing the overall business in the Nations Cup. Didn't quite have enough to do what it took, but as you can see here, doing a great job there for Mazda, and as I said, a great turnaround in fortune for them after a challenging start to the day as well.
Yeah, running P2. We are now currently on lap 3 of this 5-lap race around the 24-hour layout of the Nürburgring. Includes the GP circuit and, of course, the Nordschleife proper, which we are on at the moment. We are on board with Angel Enestrosa showing us the way around in his Porsche. Well, currently, though, his front view is full of the back end of Takuma Miyazono, which usually on the night out you might enjoy that, but not when you're on the Nürburgring. As Miyazono there repping Team Subaru at the moment for the next lap and a bit, or 2 laps and a bit, are still the manufacturers' champions from 2020, but it's not going to be a repeat of that, I don't think.
No, I mean, they're going to have to hope for a minor miracle. They're down in 8th place in the standings there currently. I mean, that's if it finished as it was. They'd be finishing in 8th position, so we'll keep an eye out and see how that all plays out.
I think it's actually they cannot win from here. So, like, they're actually, this is, whatever happens in this race, we're going to see a brand new manufacturer crowned as the Manufacturer Series champion for 2021. No matter what Miyazono can do, and right now it's not very much.
Well, you say that though, Jimmy, but of course Toyota won it back in 2019, and they're on to win it again. They could be the first ever double champions.
Well, brand new for this year then. M&L.
God dear. Well, let's see what happens then, because there's still plenty of the race left to run. 5.7 seconds the gap with Igor Fraga and Cockburn then Hill. Still looking at the battle for 6th position. These trio of drivers continue on with Sternberg, Miyazono and Angel Enestrosa sitting very close to one another, coming in towards the middle part then of the lap. Just the concentration from these drivers. We've got the ability to see the driver cams in the commentary box here, and just absolute concentration. Miyazono sitting in the middle of this sandwich at the moment. I mean, he's in an unfortunate position really, because he's having to keep a watchful eye on his mirrors, but also not get too close to Sternberg in front here.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a frustrating place to be in Miyazono, because you can tell Sternberg is holding this pack up because they're still together. They're still absolutely glued together. Even in the background, Gallo's starting to gain as well, so he's there in the background too. But speaking of driver cams, I was just looking at Igor Fraga. His face just doesn't change. Occasionally he has a little peak, and then otherwise he looks like he's just about to fall asleep, actually. But that's always been his driver cam, and it's working well because he's pulled another second on Coker in front. So Fraga extending his lead. Meanwhile, the fight for 6th, 7th and 8th goes on, continues. As we come in to now up towards the first carousel, and this is actually a super important corner, because if you get this wrong, you get sort of ejected out to the outside, and you lose about a second, 2 seconds, because that camber speeds you up so much. It's like going on an oval, a little mini oval here in the German forests, that if you're not there, it just slows you up so much, and it's such an iconic part of the course. It's great to see, of course, our guys here in the Group 3 cars master it so well. As we come onto that back section once again, there's Kevin Bellech.
Yeah, he's closed that gap right up onto Adam Tapai. Now under 0.8 of a second. I've been keeping a close eye on it over the last couple of sectors or so, and it was about 1.5 seconds, then down to a second, now down to under a second. So he's going to surely just have to sit there and bide his time, even though he's up easily the quicker of the 2 drivers.
Yeah, you think that maybe there'll be a lunge somewhere, and when you have this much of a speed advantage over the guy in front, sometimes it is just, you know what, I'm going to go for it, and he has to let me through it, otherwise we're going to have a little bit of a crunch between us. But he's not actually too far behind Baptiste Beauvoir. You can actually see on your screen there. So he has pulled that gap back down there, but bearing in mind he does have to change tyres soon, probably on lap 4, as do the rest. He will be off that soft compounder tyre, and that charge will probably be haunted, but I think he's made the best of it. He started in a difficult position, started in P7, made his way up to P5, and now is challenging here. And again, you know around here, track position is everything, as he pretty much pushes Adam Tapai through this last section.
Yeah, it's coming in towards the Dottinger Her. This is surely where he's going to be thinking about making the move. As you said, so much one at a time through this section that if you make a move, it will be both of you off into the barrier. And let's hope that that doesn't happen. But Bellech there just biding his time behind the wheel of that BMW. Of course, they qualified really well with Rio Kamata taking a top 6 grid slots in the first race and haven't really made much of an impression thereafter.
Dean Helt, of course, behind the wheel of the car in the second race, and then Bellic behind the wheel of the car here in this grand final. Let's see whether they can make their way up into fourth position ahead of Adam Tapai. Surely this is going to be a pretty easy job as they come then down the Dottinger Hill, because of course he's got the advantage of the slipstream as Bellic, whereas Tapai does not. Let's see what the legs of it are like in a straight line. We'll come back to that in a few moments, because Inestrosa is right up onto the back of Sternberg, but also Gallo has been closing up onto the back of these guys as well, and is now just 0.2 of a second away here.
Yeah, he gained 2 seconds in that last sector alone, so Gallo really now starting to find his feet in the Honda, and now 3 wide in front. Where's he going to go? To the left. Surely this could be an easy... Oh, thank you very much, says Valerio Gallo. I'll take 3 of them at once. You made that very easy. That's taking you up to 6th place. Will he be able to keep it now? Because that VW is coming back strong. We know it's quick in a straight line. Gallo's still in 6th place. Inestrosa behind, then Sternberg, then Miyazono having to give way to the rest of the cars in front. And that pretty much worked out perfectly for Valerio, didn't it?
Well, that was spot on there from Valerio Gallo. 3 places in the space of 1 straight. Fantastic driving there. I have to say, Bellic did not manage to get himself ahead of Adam Tapai. I wonder whether that was intentional. Now we're coming in towards another set of pit stops, because the medium runners are all coming in for their soft tyres. They want to run those for as long as they possibly can, whereas Igor Fraga will come in at the end then of this lap, the penultimate lap, to put the hard tyres on for the end of this race. So you have to run them for a minimum of 1 lap, so he'll be coming in at the end then of this one, as will all of the drivers who are have not yet run the hard competitive tyre, and that is all the drivers that are currently sitting inside the top 4 positions in this race at the moment.
Yep, so out comes Gallo. He should be leading this little pack out of the pit lane. Who's ahead of him though? Let's have a look, because that's going to be important too. He's down in 8th place after that, so maybe this strategy's not worked out. Bear in mind the guys in front have actually done their last pit stop, so Nissan and Aston Martin have both jumped this little gang, so maybe that was the better strategy to be on there. Gallo, whilst he has got ahead of this little group, is still only down in 8th place, so I don't know, it's still an odd one for me, that strategy. But we'll go back to Bellic and Tapai. And interestingly, I was going to say, hasn't been able to get by just yet. And just as I say, that goes up the inside, coming through the last part of the GP circuit on Tapai in that Jaguar, and moves up into 4th place. Now, this lap has to really count for Bellic and BMW. They need to have a good lap here if they have any hope of catching the top 3.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's see how this will go then for Bellic and for BMW. Again, of course, any points positions that will change could possibly deny them the Mercedes-Benz, that is, who are in 3rd position, and Baptiste Beauvoir, that top 3 finish in the Manufacturers Series. So if Bellic can catch up and Porsche can't make any more inroads, that could be the saving grace that Porsche needs to get themselves a top 3 finish in the overall standings then here this year. So just talk us through this first section of this lap here, Jimmy, because you know this probably better than anybody else.
Yeah, great bit of circuit there through Hatz and back. It's almost flat through there. And now this section is actually quite deceiving. There's a lot of little cambers here that can upset the car. You can use all of the roads here and use quite a bit of the curb as well. Look at the curb using the right here. You can get all over that in a Group 3 car, and all on this left one as well. And then we plunge downhill for the run up to the Flugplatz. All about getting the car turned in there. And then you can straight line it, drive towards the curb on the outside. Now just let the car run away, veer engine in this Jag. So we go down the straight now up towards the Flugplatz, which is a very tricky corner because the car lifts off for just a little section in front of the car, lifting up, and again for Adam Tapai. And it's just very, very fast right-hander. It can be flat if you're feeling adventurous, not quite flat in these Group 3 cars. And now we go back downhill, drafting zone through here. Gravity works with you to get up to the top speed you get up to on this circuit. Adam Tapai not quite in the draft though of Bellic in front. And now we go around this left-hander, a little hump before that, little lift in the blend, and then you get on the anchors hard as we go downhill now. This plunge downhill is one of the most scenic parts of a circuit, if you ask me, down towards the foxhole. And it's not a straight by any means. It is a roller coaster. The road cambers every which way, and then you go down the compression and hang on for dear life.
Well, fantastic. Lovely to get a good insight there. I mean, it's almost like you do this on a nearly daily basis, driving this track.
I've wasted a lot of my life at this circuit. It's all I'll say. No, wasted isn't the word, not at all.
Well, you've driven this, of course, virtually and in real life. Just talk us through what it was like the first time you went out on a track.
Oh, in real life, I cried the first time I went round because it was such an emotional experience to finally get to live the Nordschleife in real life after doing it so much virtually. I can tell you just how close this version of a circuit is. There are reference points in this circuit here that I was being told to use in real life, which I think is just amazing for the accuracy of how close sims are now getting
to real life. And of course, for someone like Igor Fraga, I'm sure he's been around here a couple of times as well, all it does is help inform you further in both your sim and real life experience. It's not a matter now of sim helping real life or real life helping sim. It's both. They both inform each other. We've got so far now.
And that's one of the things I love about sim racing is, of course, the crossover skill is tangible as well, isn't it? You know, you can sit there on it with a wheel and pedals as these guys are doing at home, and then you can get an idea of what it's like. It's not the same as sitting there playing a football game at home and then going out and running and, you know, playing with Man United or something.
Yeah, all in a shooter game. That's not something I'd recommend you to.
No.
That's called war, as someone said.
Well, anyway, moving on to the right-hander comes Igor Fraga then through here. This has just been an amazing display of driving from Igor Fraga. So difficult to overstate it. And as you said, Jimmy, just once he's on his own, once he's in his own rhythm and gets himself comfortable, he's not squabbling amongst anybody else. He just seems to be a different driver, almost.
I mean, all you've got to do is look at that gap. Nearly 7 seconds on the road to Kokubun, who is, I think, one of, if not the fastest Japanese drivers. And he's just making them look slow around here. And that strategy's been the same. I mean, Kokubun did have a little fight with Bovar, but that's now sort of peaked off a little bit, and there's just nothing. No one can touch Igor Fraga. Fraga and Toyota are one of the strongest combinations we have in GT Sport, and we're being shown an absolute clinic today.
And credit also, as well, it has to be said to Koke Lopez and Tomoaki Yamanaka, his two teammates, who have put in brilliant performances, wins in both of their races, pole position as well. It's proving to, so far, be the clean sweep for Toyota, but still plenty of time left to run. Come back to that in a few moments' time, because Inestrosa coming under pressure from Roberto Sternberg then here. Gallo, as we know, up into 8th position, but let's see whether Sternberg is going to try and mount a challenge. He's not quite able to do so just because the track is that little bit too narrow as it stands currently. And speaking of as it stands, just looking at the points standings at the moment, it's a 3-point gap between between Porsche and Mercedes-Benz. So all these positions are very, very important here for Angel Inestrosa.
I think he needs to finish 7th, or is it 8th? Basically, it's only 1 or 2 more places he needs to go, and then Porsche will have that overall podium. So it's all down to Angel now. His teammates have done their part. It's all down to him with a lap and a half of this grand final remaining. I can't believe we're here already. Only a lap and a half left of the 2021 season in the Manufacturer Series. It all comes down to this for Team Porsche. Inestrosa versus Gallo versus Moisov.
So let's see how this is all going to work out then. There is Moisov just a little bit up the road in the Aston Martin V12 Vantage. Aston haven't had a particularly memorable season in 2021. They were 8th going into the standings, into the World Finals, I should say, rather, and they're currently sitting in 9th place if the checkered flag fell currently. So let's see how that all works out for Aston Martin, because they're coming under more pressure now as Valerio Gallo begins to close up. Fresh to soft tyres underneath him on that Honda NSX at the moment, and you can see just how much more grip he has got underneath him, just able to close up on the back of Nikita Moisov through these twisties.
What a section. I know I keep saying this, but I just love watching these cars go through here. It's times like this, it doesn't feel like it's work. It's just fun to watch this. And interestingly, in front now, a penalty has been awarded to Afidi in the Nissan. So how far ahead are they? How big is that penalty? I think it's just track limits. Will that slow them down enough to put them down into this group? Because that could have massive ramifications for Inestrosa and Team Porsche.
And even though the penalty is only half a second, of course, that penalty is going to be served on the Döttinger Höhe, the fastest part of the lap. So you don't just lose half a second, you lose all of the time as well, because your car is not up to speed as everybody else is. Look at these guys just jostling their way through. Miyazono having a bit of a sneaky look there on Sternberg. Sternberg also in turn trying to challenge his way on Inestrosa coming through here. This is just brilliant.
Yeah, it's everybody for themselves at this point. It's a really, really aggressive moment for these guys. They have to make this count as we come on to the Döttinger Höhe for the second to last time, the penultimate time through here. This is a dress rehearsal. We've said it before. This is where you try and plan a move maybe for that last lap. Now Moisov has fallen right back into the clutches of Gallo and Inestrosa now, so it definitely is that's a 4-way fight, sorry, a 5-way fight now for P7. Miyazono at the back, and of course Inestrosa needs every place he can get. Kokubun and Fraga both pit in for that hard compounder tyre at the end of the race. So here we are then. It's all going to come down to this on the straight. Right now Moisov leading, Gallo pulls out, Sternberg pulls out, Inestrosa pulls out, Miyazono pulls out. They're all vying for that, but apparently this pit stop's more important for some reason.
The top 5 drivers then coming into the pit lane as we cross away from that battle. So Igor Fraga into the pit lane, then going on to the hard compound of tyres. Kokubun Beauvoir, Tapai and Belic also into the pit box then as they change over to some new Michelin rubber. Let's see how this is all going to work out then for these guys as they come out of the pit lane and on to the start of the final lap for the grand final of the Manufacturer Series. There is your race leader Igor Fraga, who now has a 7-second advantage over the rest of the field. Here is the battle though for 7th position in this race. Gallo goes down the inside of Angel Inestrosa. Can he make it stop? No, not quite. Inestrosa's back through on the outside there. Bit of contact between the two drivers. Sternberg's coming through on the inside there, or at least trying to, but he's not quite able to do so. So instead of attacking for 7th place, he's now down into 10th place. There is Valerio Gallo, and Moisov is on his inside. Can Moisov find his way through in the Aston V12 Vantage? Not quite, because they're going to flick it left, but he's got the traction on the outside, and here comes Takuma Miyazono, ready to try and join in as well. So they're side by side now are Moisov and Miyazono coming down in towards the Dunlop hairpin then. Here comes Miyazono down the inside, or at least has a look on Gallo, can't quite make his way through. Miyazono does hold on to 10th place ahead of Nikita Moisov.
So interestingly, Inestrosa now needs to finish 7th. He needs to be 7th to get that 3rd place overall in the World Final here in 2021. So here is Havidi and Tapai having a little bit of a scrap on Nissan, trying to go around the outside of the jack. You'll love to see it. You'll love to see that. Up into 5th place because Havidi and the Nissan now. It's going to be a bit of a drag race between the two of them. We know they're both very strong in the straight, but who's stronger? Turbo V6 versus V8. It looks like the V6 wins out this time, and Havidi goes up into 5th place on that soft tyre and now looking to try and chase down Belic. But again, the fight I'm interested in, because it's seemingly that the top 3 are, well, it's seemingly decided at this point, is where Inestrosa finishes, because he's under massive pressure from Sternberg, and if he loses that place and goes down to P8, then Porsche do not finish on the podium overall.
Well, let's see how this plays out then with Sternberg then as we ride on board through that left-hander. Onto the Nordschleife we go for the final time then. So Sternberg sitting in 8th place, putting that pressure onto Angel Inestrosa. I mean, if he's going to pounce, you'd think it would be the Dössinger, but it's the last lap, and desperation can creep in too.
Well, you can see these guys are both running away there now, and Tapai's in the mix as well. So Inestrosa obviously looking to try and get as many points as possible. He's going to try and get Tapai, because that will almost guarantee the place, but none of these guys, of course, are going to give that up willingly. Right now, if it ended as is, Toyota, Mazda, Porsche, Mercedes-Benz, Nissan would be your top 5. So Nissan would creep into the top 5 there, which would be a great result for them. That's the blatant Nissan fanboy I am, but it's not over yet. We have a long lap here at the Nordschleife. We've got about 7 minutes of very hard, very fast, very frantic racing, and Inestrosa now onto the back of Tapai. He needs every place he can get. Will he be able to get by the jack in front? He pulls to the outside. Looks like it's going to be an easy move, but now he'll be on the outside for this left-hander. Oh, he's getting shoved wide there. Sternberg's forcing his way through, and just like that, Porsche off the podium, down to P8. He's coming back though on the inside, back by both of them, I think, back by him and Tapai, but this doesn't work. 2x2 down here does not work. Are they going to come out unscathed? Tapai's just about going to keep the place, I think. And Inestrosa's got to back off, surely, or it's going to be a monumental crash down the bottom here. He does, he backs out of it, and Tapai takes 6th place back, my word.
That is just as close as it gets. Great commitment and great respect from these drivers. Then Angel Inestrosa now sits behind Adam Tapai after an incredibly close battle out on track then. There's only just over half a lap to go then here, and Angel Inestrosa is throwing the kitchen sink at this as he tries to find his way through on Adam Tapai. He's looking left, he's looking right, he's trying to find an opportunity, trying to invent something, but he's not quite close enough at the moment. 7th is enough for Inestrosa, but you know Sternberg in the Volkswagen is going to want to try and find his way through on Inestrosa. He certainly signified that intention by getting his elbows out in the first part of this lap, but he's not quite close enough to mount a challenge as it sits through here. They are sitting one at a time through there, and that's quite sensible because, as you said, Jimmy, it'll be a one-way ticket to the barrier, but Tapai's wide. Here comes Inestrosa. Contact between the two. Oh, they're going to make it through. Here comes Sternberg on the inside. Sternberg goes through into 7th place. Contact again, and Sternberg's in the wall. Oh, no, Inestrosa puts Sternberg in the wall, and now he loses out to Miyazono as well as Gallo.
That's something the stewards are going to look at there. It was a little bit, I think. It was fair for a little bit, but that last move was not. Inestrosa, I think, just leaned on Sternberg after being forced wide himself. Almost retaliatory, I'd say, in that regard. But so he's up to 7th place now, but surely there'll be a penalty. So if you're Inestrosa now, you'll probably know that's coming. You'll probably know, okay, that wasn't on. I'm probably going to get penalised for that. I need to gap these guys. I need to get by Tapai. I need to be as quick as I can, because that penalty will be served on the back straight, and if it's anything more than 0.5, it really does impact you down the straight. So he's looking looking to try and get by them now. So again, just a confirmation, if it did finish this way, Porsche would be on the podium by only 1 point over Mercedes-Benz. He's going to go side by side with Depay now up towards the bravery corner, we call it. Is Adam going to give it up? No, he's still on the rear quarter panel and just has to just give it up at that point. There would have been a big crash, so they went in side by side. So that's actually really good for Inestrosa for now. Will he be able to catch the Nissan in front? Because he needs to get as much clear air between him and 7th place as possible.
Well, it took a little while for this race to get going, but it is certainly going with some fireworks now, and I'm really excited to see how this is all going to play out then. So in towards the carousel we go. You can see Sternberg there looking really aggressive onto the back of Valerio Gallo as they come through the carousel, not quite able to find his way through into there because of course it's so much one at a time through this section, but Sternberg is trying to get his way back through into 8th position. This won't really affect Volkswagen too much, but you know that Sternberg is going to try and have a challenge on the back of the Honda driver. Gallo, of course, has got fresher tyres underneath him, but just doesn't seem to have the pace in that NSX to be able to use it, really.
Well, this is actually between Gallo and Sternberg. This is for effectively P8 in the standings, I think it is here. That'll be the predicted points after this. So there is definitely a position under grabs here. It is directly on track between Honda and VW. And whilst it's not a big position, it's still something. So they'll be fighting for it because every position matters to these guys. Coming through this last section of the circuit for the last time, Gallo all over the place, really struggling with that Honda drifting there, coming down the bottom section, but managing to stay on the racing line, just about keeping Sternberg behind. He is really, really struggling on those soft tyres now. They've gone fully off there in that Honda, and I'm just interested whether they get a penalty for Inestrosa or not. I've not seen it pop up yet. Miyazono trying to move. I wouldn't try it there, Takuma, but he tries it anyway. Of course he does. It's Takuma Miyazono. He'll try anything on the circuit to gain a place, but it's very much one at a time through here, and you get the impression there's going to be something quite big happening on the main straight, and we get he's pushing Sternberg through there. He's got so much more speed but nowhere to go.
Into the Dottinger Hill we come then for the final time. This is where it's going to get pretty interesting then. So Takuma Miyazono, he's sitting in 10th place, has to back out of it there because everyone in front of him is jostling for position, and a penalty is awarded to Inestrosa. But how much is that penalty? It's a second. He's got a second of a penalty, and he's got 1.5 seconds over Adam Depay. Here's Sternberg up the inside of Gallo, who makes a meal of the second carousel. So Gallo now drops down to 10th place. That could be 8th place over and done with for Honda in the standings.
That could be it. That one little mistake that I told you those tyres were done. So here's Inestrosa's penalty right now. He's going to be on the brakes for 1 second, which is an eternity right now because you lose so much speed. You've got to try and build it back up again, and you're giving the draft to Adam Depay behind in the Jaguar. Now they can finish 7th. That's okay. That's all right for him.
So let's see what's going to happen then with Angel Inestrosa. Meanwhile, the race leader's ready to come through to the final corner. What a race and what a season it has been from Toyota. Koke Lopez, Tomoaki Yamanaka and Igor Fraga and Team Toyota are double Manufacturers Series champions in 2021.
Nice.
Cockerman comes home for Mazda in second place. Then it's Beauvoir in third position for Mercedes-Benz. Bellic is going to take 4th place then for Team BMW on the road in that race. A fantastic end, and Inestrosa is just going to hold on to take 7th place and 3rd overall for Team Porsche in the 2021 standings. Well, I dare say it couldn't get much closer than that. Final results then after that race. Igor Fraga wins it for Toyota in the grand final. The clean sweep, pole position, as well as 3 race wins, Jimmy.
Yeah, great job by Toyota and Mazda as well to sort of claw that back after the first race. They'll finish 2nd, of course, with Baptiste Beauvoir in 3rd. Not quite enough for Team Mercedes to get 3rd overall. For Angel Inestrosa just clinching the points he needs in 7th place.
Let's have a look and see what it means then for the world's point standing. So Team Toyota win it, 61 points to Mazda's 45. Porsche 1 point ahead of Mercedes-Benz right at the checkered flag. Nissan tie on points for the top 5 there, JB.
Very happy. I'm happy with that. Team Nissan coming back strong. That's what you like to see, boys.
So our winning Manufacturer Series team in the 2021 FIA Gran Turismo Championships is Team Toyota, and the whole team joins with me now. So obviously Igor Fraga, Tomoaki Yamanaka and Koke Lopez. But let's start with you, Igor. How do you feel after that? You completely dominated that race. That was very intense.
Yes. Yeah, I tried to do my best. I've been practicing a lot in the Nürburgring as well. And especially, in 2018 was the same combination of tracks. Didn't went so well. So it was the time that I could really not recover from that, but possible to leave a better result. So it have been really good.
It was a very intense race for us, and I think that particular track just seems like it's relentless. Like you can't stop thinking for a minute. Do you feel quite exhausted after that?
Yes, and especially I put 5 laps, almost like quali pace. I tried to really push as hard as I could. So yeah, I'm having a little bit of headache now. Because you have to concentrate so hard, but I'm really happy with the result.
I mean, it's wonderful to have you back and on top. This is very, very good for us. We love it, so congratulations. Let's switch over now to Tomoaki Yamanaka. Tomoaki, how are you doing? How do you feel with that result?
いや本当に嬉しいですね。2回目のワールドチャンピオンっていうことで、本当に3人が完璧な仕事をできたからこそのこのパーフェクトなレース。いや本当に嬉しいです。
Yeah, Tomoaki, you're on. You could potentially be on for the triple. You could be doing a Miyazono. What do you think? What are your chances?
いやもちろんトリプルクラウンは狙ってるんですけど、ネーションズカップが一番僕の中では厳しいと思いますし、僕も2018年で取りこぼしたっていうのも非常によく覚えているので、今年こそは最高の形で終われるように頑張りたいと思います。
Tomoaki, how proud are you of all your teammates right now?
いやもう本当に素晴らしいチームメイトとしか言いようがないですね。ソフトタイヤスタートって言った時は何を言ってるんだって思ったこともありましたけど、こうして最高の結果を得られたので、もう本当に最高のチームメイトと一緒にレースができたと思います。
You can learn a lesson here, Tomoaki. Always trust your Toyota teammates. Okay, thank you so much, Tomoaki. And now we're going to have a quick chat with Koke Lopez. Koke, how are you doing?
Hey, Julia. All good, thanks.
What a performance. I mean, basically unstoppable. It's crazy. How do you feel?
Yeah, I feel, there's nothing that you don't know. I'm so happy, of course. I've been already crying a lot. and of course, having these two teammates and such a great team and car made this possible. So, yeah, I'm so happy.
How scared were you when you were watching your teammates? Were you excited? Were you happy? Were you afraid?
I was like, I really believe in them, but I was just, I had this feeling that I was worried about the connection, because it's not always about the car or the driving. There's something else to have good luck, which is the connection. So I was just worried about that, but I knew Igor and Yamanaka-san were gonna do it so good, so it was like that in the end.
Are you going to have a little party tonight? I know, because obviously we can't all be in the same room, but are you going to have a little Manufacturer Series Zoom call party with your teammates, I hope?
Yeah, hopefully.
Okay, all right. Well, look, huge congratulations, Koke. You did amazingly to all of the drivers in Team Toyota and actually all of the competitors. So huge well done once again to our 2021 Manufacturer Series winners, Team Toyota. Well, Tom and Jimmy, how can you put into words what's happened with today's performances?
Hard to describe the words, really, for some people in that race. I mean, some people's performances were brilliant. Others didn't have such a good day. Especially, I think, Valerio Gallo and Honda. They had a difficult day in the office, didn't they?
Yeah, for whatever reason, Gallo just couldn't seem to get that car turned on. Maybe it was tyre wear, maybe it was the way the car handled, but you can see at the end, I mean, he's battling for 10th place, and this is not what we're used to seeing for Gallo, especially in this Honda. He's been really strong in previous sessions, but 10th place for them, I feel like a bit of a kick in the teeth, I think.
Sorry, guys. Tyre wear was just impossible. Sorry.
And that explains why he did those 2 laps on the hard tyres at the end.
Look at the big brain.
The big brain tyre wear. Yeah, I mean, well, look at that. It's almost like you know what you're talking about or something.
Big brain, big head.
Yeah, something like that. Definitely a big head. Anyway, Porsche, meanwhile, had a very eventful day. Angel Nestroza was in the wars right at the end of this race. I mean, talk us through this here, Jimmy.
So this was Nestroza trying to get by Tapai with them hard compound tyres. To be fair, Tapai actually defended really well. Then he came to blows with Sternberg, who then got pinged back onto the circuit and got into the way of Miyazono and of Gallo. He wasn't done though, he got by Tapai eventually up into 6th place, but unsurprisingly, he did give that a 1-second penalty for the impact with Sternberg. So he went back down to 7th place, but that was actually all he needed to secure 3rd place of Porsche by a single point.
Doesn't get much closer than that, does it? Brilliant driving from Angel Nestroza. For the most part, a little bit robust at the end there, though, but he got away with it, importantly.
desperate driving, is what I'd say. But to be fair, for that last step of the podium, I think I'd do the same.
Well,
fair enough.
Anyway, somebody who wasn't in the wars at all, we didn't really talk about him that much, Igor Fraga. How dominant can you be? Away from the light, then we might as well just throw the checkered flag out now because he was never to be seen again.
Yeah, done, sorted. I mean, this is what Fraga does best, driving away from the front of the field. And initially, I thought it might be challenged by Kokipin and by Beauvoir, but immediately he started to just bring out a gap. Near the end, he won the race by about 7 seconds. And in a race that is this tight, the field this high, it's an absolutely amazing performance. It's something that we were used to seeing from Igor Fraga. It's great to see him back at this level again.
Absolutely. Let's see what it meant for him and the team.
Yes! Yes! Yosha! Yatta!
Yosh! Yeah! What a pace, mate, what a pace!
I love that. I love the fact that Igor speaks in Japanese to Tomoaki and then you've just got Koke coming in. What a pace, mate. Go on.
Now, what a show-off. It's just like, I just want to race in the Supra at the Nürburgring, in the highest competitive level ever. Oh, now I'm going to speak Japanese. Whatever, mate.
Oh, dear. Let's have a look, shall we, and look at the final standings once again after the Manufacturer Series World Final. So Toyota are the double champions. They won it in 2019. They win it again in 2021. Mazda and Porsche completing the top 3 finishers.
Thanks, guys, and congratulations once again to our Manufacturer Series winners, Team Toyota. Watching all the excitement today has been the president of the FIA Esports Commission, Anna Nordqvist.
Well, I think we can all agree that after a strong performance from Team Toyota, Igor Fraga, Tomoaki Yamanaka and Koki Lopez were the dominant team this year and are certainly well-deserving champions. Respectively, Team Mazda and Team Porsche also performed really well throughout the year, with Team Porsche ending out Team Mercedes-Benz by just a single point to decide third in the standings. This has been a great year for esports at the FIA, and the FIA Esports Commission is strongly dedicated to work hard and continue to develop the discipline in the future, allowing a new generation of motorsport stars to emerge.
Thanks so much to Anna there. Now, it's been another of those amazing days in the Gran Turismo Championships, and as always, our viewers will be choosing our Michelin Driver of the Day. So, falls to Jimmy, you've got to pick some options that we're then just probably going to ignore.
See, I've come prepared this time.
All right,
I
well, good.
Think. So,
okay.
Really can't ignore, first of all, Igor Fraga in that last race because, well, we didn't see him in it, which means that he was just out on his own, pulled away from the start and just didn't look back. And that sort of performance is why he's an Ex-Nations Cup champion and why he keeps performing so well for Toyota. So surely a contender there.
Yeah, and that's a relentless track as well, where like one mistake and then that's it.
I think I crashed at every corner on that circuit, and he managed to make it look easy. So super impressive.
Yeah.
And this might seem a little bit strange, but I'm going to go for another Toyota driver and
all right,
and say Tomoaki Yamanaka.
Yeah.
Just because he had this mad idea in race 2 to start on the soft tyre. He was the only one to do it, and it just paid off massively. That's because his teammates
told him to do it, and he was like, I don't know if I should do that, and then they were both like, yeah, you should. Isn't that, I find that quite fascinating.
Well, he made it work. He was the one that made it work, so definitely props to that. And also because of massive Nissan.
Oh, for goodness sake, all the way through.
Of course, in race 1, we had Sato come third place. Finally, some result for Nissan.
You're always pushing a Nissan agenda here.
It's my job. But yeah, I think they're the 3 that I would put forward for driver of the day.
As always, you can choose to totally ignore Jimmy and just, make your own decision, but do please go and vote for the Michelin Driver of the Day via the Gran Turismo Facebook, Twitter or Instagram stories. And another, just a tiny quick reminder that you can pre-order the all-new GT7, which is coming out on, I want to say, March?
Well, I've got a plan on March 4th to basically black out my windows and sit in the dark room with a PS5 all day. So,
Sorry, just for March 4th, I presume that's just how you live your life normally all the time anyway. You're just getting extra curtains.
Exposed.
Extra curtains. Anyway, now it's time to celebrate a brilliant season of racing with the podium ceremony. Over to you, Tom.
Thanks very much, Julia. Ladies and gentlemen, please join us in congratulating our podium finishers from today's Manufacturers Series World Finals event. The producer of the Gran Turismo series, Kazunori Yamauchi, will present the third-place trophy. In third place, represented by Angel Enestrosa, Tatsuya Sugawara and Jose Serrano, it's Team Porsche!
Presenting the second place trophy is the executive officer from the brand management office of BBS Japan, Yasuhiro Tanaka. In second place, represented by Ryota Kokuben, Jeff Gallen and Miroslav Kravchenko, it's Team Mazda! And now welcome back Yamauchi-san to present the winner's trophy. And the winners of the Manufacturers Series in the 2021 FIA Certified Gran Turismo Championship are Igor Fraga, Tomoaki Yamanaka and Koke Lopez, representing Team Toyota!
Yes!
Ladies and gentlemen, your respect please for the national anthem of our winning 2021 manufacturer, Team Toyota. Congratulations once again to Team Toyota, our 2021 Gran Turismo Championship Manufacturer Series winners.
Oh wow, what an amazing season, and congratulations to our Manufacturers Series champions, Team Toyota. I guess before we go, any last words you'd like to share with the viewers there, Jamal?
I think the pressure's now on the Nations Cup guys, right? I mean, they've got to really try and follow up this awesome display of the days, so do it. Pressure's on.
I think it's going to be great because it's the last one, right? Everything to prove. So thank you guys for being with us, and of course thanks to Jimmy and thanks to Tom and to our lovely studio audience all the way over in Japan.
Yes, take care everyone, and make sure you do not miss the finale of the Nations Cup season tomorrow, because that's when you get to find out what's under this very mysterious sheet. I'm afraid it is not Tom Brooks.
Or like several of them, which is, I presume, a babble of Brooks? I don't know. Anyway, I mean, the surprise, the racing and the crowning of another 2021 FIA Gran Turismo champion, it's going to be unbelievable. We'll see you then. Bye for now.
Team Toyota are double Manufacturers Series champions in 2021.
PlayStation